580-5436, 580-KIDO. We urge you to go to our website and take a look at some of the stories that we are dealing with. Certainly the fires, several wildfires burning in Idaho and Oregon. Keep it here for the very latest. And if you need to communicate with somebody, you can always give us a call at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. It's Tuesday. It's a late day for Mr. Savage. When you only really work 2 of the 7 days that we put in, I suppose. So something's better than nothing. Good morning, sir.
It should be 2 of the 7 days. Where does this number 2 come from?
Well, you really don't really show up. I think you're virtual. You kind of just go through the motions. Really, when we just get you rolling, we'd love to see you Monday, but you give us the Heisman. You show up better late than never on Tuesday. Well,
yeah, just because
I don't know about that.
Off the mark to get me booked in. It's not my responsibility.
Oh, yeah. 31 years in this business, and I've got an audition from some guy in London. There you go, folks. 31 years of waking people up. 31 years of putting this guy and Simon Cowell, Alistair Wanklin, Courtney Keeley, and everybody else over. And this is what I get. Where's the gold watch when you need it?
Look, of course you've earned my respect. You've earned everybody's respect, but doesn't mean you get to jump the queue. This is an egalitarian society we exist in here, and you've got to press the button just like everybody else.
Willie and Juanita has more stroke than Big Potato Kevin Miller. Willie and Juanita, who goes, "Hi, everybody, look at me. I was on YouTube 3 minutes ago, and now I'm on the radio. That's how it is, folks. You think you got issues.
Yeah.
And here we go. Here comes the segue. And just like Zelensky, who seems like years ago had no cards, apparently Mr. Zelensky has cards because he's going after the Ayatollahs too.
Well, he's always said that he had the cards, but he's starting to convince a few people that is the case, and he is taking things even further than he had before. Now, Ukraine, they have always said that Iran has not been neutral in the Ukrainian-Russian war because Iran has supplied Russia with drones, with missile technology, and they've given Russia the ability to manufacture their own Iranian-designed drones. They're launched every single night against Ukrainian cities, causing death and disruption. Now, Ukraine is targeting Iran directly for the first time. At least an Iranian commercial vessel allegedly transporting military cargo for Russia. This was in the Caspian Sea. Iran says the attack caused an explosion, killing one sailor and wounding another. And now Iran is threatening Ukraine. The foreign minister says this attack cannot go unanswered.
Well, the Iranians seem to be in the driver's seat. The president's still saying they want to cut a deal. What does the rest of the world think that's really going on?
And this is to do with Iran and the United States, an Operation Epic Fury, which is, I suppose, on pause and has been for the last few days after 13 consecutive nights of strikes, mainly targeting the coast along the Strait of Hormuz. I think most of the world hopes that this is going to come to an end soon, and I think they and President Trump are on the same page in a sense there, in that President Trump would like this to come to a negotiated settlement as soon as is possible, but not at any cost. He has accused the Iranians in the past of not being serious and not being trustworthy, of agreeing deals, but then changing their mind and going back on those deals very quickly. But he is giving diplomacy a chance. He has paused strikes in order to allow talks to take place, and he says that very good talks have been taking place with Iran, and there is a chance of a deal. Across the Middle East, diplomats from various countries are working to try to improve the situation in the Strait of Hormuz. Oman, Saudi Arabia and Iran are holding separate talks on that. So work is going on to try to bring this conflict to an end. But as we have seen, Kevin, in the past, things can spark back into life very quickly.
Indeed. Kind of like somebody's failing radio career, if you will. Talking about myself. Still waiting for the spark to come back.
I will keep hitting those bits of flint together for you, and we'll see what happens.
Well, we appreciate that. Any reviews of AEW there?
I didn't watch it because, and I think that I was right not to watch it because I knew about the Chris Jericho Tommaso Ciampa no DQ match was coming up. I'd seen some of the sort of build up to that, and I thought this is going to get really ugly. And I don't particularly like watching wrestling matches where attempted murder apparently is taking place, and that seems to be how that kind of went down. So I'm glad I didn't watch that. You know me, I'm a bit of a softie. I like my Bret Hart, Ric Flair matches with a little bit of colour, but I don't particularly like to see power drills being used as weapons.
Yeah. Finally, on that, what do you make of that whole deathmatch scene that continues to resonate again and again and again?
Not my cup of tea. I don't really get any pleasure from that. I don't mind watching a movie with a lot of very sort of simulated, carefully choreographed and professional, portrayals of that kind of thing. That's all right, but sort of watching it happening live before my eyes in a less controlled environment makes me feel very nervous and a little bit queasy.
Speaking of queasy, do you have a minute or not?
Yeah, I've got a minute.
Okay. Do you ask tough questions at all? Are you a tough guy? When it comes to interviewing the big people, are you a provocative reporter? Okay.
I try to ask the important questions. Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is Seattle Police Chief Sean Barnes. He didn't like being called out for not being in Seattle. Let's take a listen.
I have been here working as hard as I can for this city from the day I got here. You got that?
There are reports that you're not in town often.
Their reports are wrong. Do you understand? Let's go, man. Let's go. You understand?
So
Let's go.
So this guy, the chief, gets mad. Anybody ever get mad at you?
This is a legitimate question, and he may have a legitimate answer, but there's no call for getting upset at the question. I think you have to ask it, don't you?
Take a listen to this one.
I'm just trying to figure out if you were wrong or if the mayor was wrong, because the mayor completely contradicted what you told multiple members of the media, sir.
We were told on the scene around 11 o'clock, right before the press conference started, that they were waiting for dignitaries to show up.
So in other words, they didn't release any tapes. They didn't talk to anybody. And I got to give it to the Seattle press. They ain't playing around. They're going after the socialist mayor. They're actually doing their jobs.
Yeah, I think without fear of favor is the way we need to play it, isn't it? And that's partly, I think, probably why we get into this business.
I got into it to talk to people like you.
Right. Yeah, I got into it probably for the same reason.
Yeah.
One day I grew up in small town Scotland, dreaming of having a conversation with Kevin Miller.
With the big potato, yes.
With the big potato, yeah.
Jonathan Savage, the highlight of the program. We've peaked already, folks. Time to go back to bed.
Well, I will take your advice and do that. Take care. Have a good day.
Thank you. Jonathan Savage joining us. Kevin Miller in the morning at KIDO Talk Radio. That's right. Thank you, Sweetwood, for reminding us. A couple of stories on our website, complete in-depth photos from Idaho Patriot Thunder, and then we have the Kohberger files, where Mr. Kohberger has said he wants a free and fair trial. We'll get into that, but on Sunday, it took Socialist Mayor Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson more than 5 hours to address the media. They still haven't released any video concerning the horrific mass shootings. Now, remember, this is a city that attacks police officers. This is a city that has cut police officers. This is a liberal city that, celebrates the end of law and order. So I want you to listen to this. This is the media going after the folks in Seattle.
I'm just trying to figure out if you were wrong or if the mayor was wrong, because the mayor completely contradicted what you told multiple members of the media, sir.
We were told on the scene around 11 o'clock, right before the press conference started, that they were waiting for dignitaries to show up.
The thing that I want to do is I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to speak here. And there are dignitaries that want to give information as well. So that's the reason why I want to have everybody speak.
But I'm not mad at you. I am mad at the dignitaries that are holding us a press conference.
So a lot of people in the public right now believe the reason why there was a 5-hour delay was because we had politicians who wanted to get in front of the camera. So I want to get you on the record. Is that true? Was the delay at all to do with because he needed politicians to get in front of the camera?
Yeah. So, by the way, this is why Kevin Miller is so harsh on, and again, Seattle is not Boise, but this is great reporting. And you're in a big enough city where they can't marginalize you. You've been doing this 20 or even 30 years. You know how important it is. There was a mass shooting. They didn't address the media because Jayapal, the police chief, I believe they had to find him. And, no, not the police chief. Let's give him a break for a minute. They had to find the governor and the Seattle mayor. And this is a crisis mode going on. They can't find the other suspect, the other shooter. And the chief gets ripped for being out of town all the time. You can't be the police chief and be out of town in Seattle. And the media, and again, that's why we don't have any friends in the media, but this is what you hire people to do, to ask the tough questions.
That is absolutely not the case. Okay, so as I stated before, last night at Seattle Center, what we had was a scene of an active investigation where SPD was searching the grounds for a possible second suspect. And there are times when elected official presence is not helpful, and that was one of those times. We don't want our law enforcement distracted, taking care of elected officials when they have work to do.
But there was no direction from Governor Ferguson's office or Camilla Jayapal's office to wait to do the press conference until they got to the scene.
As soon as we coordinated with SPD and agreed that it was time to talk to the media, as soon as we knew that we were going to be doing that, I and Governor Ferguson and Congresswoman Jayapal arrived on the scene within minutes.
So you can say his office unequivocally did not tell you to wait?
No, absolutely not.
The thing that I want to do is I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to speak here. And there are dignitaries that want to give information as well. So that's the reason why I want to have everybody speak.
The mayor contradicted everything that you told the media last night about dignitaries. What happened there, sir?
Well, like I said, whatever the mayor said in this conversation, that's what happened.
That's Brian Pritchard, Seattle Police Communications. So this guy has been told, don't do anything until Livingston, the mayor, Katie Wilson, and Jayapal get there. Now, remember, this is a bizarre press conference after a mass shooting in Seattle. This is what, and again, with all due respect, they'll hate me for saying this, we have people running promos when news matters and everything, and I hope to the good Lord we never have anything like this, but we did have a police shooting the other day. This is what it's about. These guys are holding, look, the public has a right to know. Does it not?
No. Okay. Do you feel like she undercut you? Because
what I can have you do, if you have any more additional questions, you can contact my office. Okay. You have my email address?
I do.
Okay. So contact my office and just put every question that you have, and we'll get those questions answered.
Right. But do you feel as though she undercut what you told the media last night?
Thank you.
Were you wrong, or was the mayor wrong?
Thank you.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out if you were wrong or if the mayor was wrong, because the mayor completely contradicted what you told multiple members of the media, sir. So I'm just trying to understand. Okay.
It is outrageous
what
that we are being told to wait for dignitaries.
Okay. So what I'll do is I'll go back here and we'll get everybody together. We'll get somebody to talk to you guys. I do understand, like I said, you got the natural Rob and
It's not us, it's the public that needs to know.
It's the public that needs to know. And yes, we can talk about Brian Kohberger. Shame on the New York Times. Shame on the New York Times and everybody else for jumping on the Kohberger train. You know, and I'll tell you a little story, and I'm sorry that this is so inside, but I used to play this game. I never played the game like everybody else. And the game is, well, in the interest of the public, we need to get Kohberger. Kohberger's in a cell in CUNA. Apparently, he doesn't like getting bologna sandwiches. Apparently, he doesn't like the fact that people are angry with him. The other cellies have an issue with him. Maybe he doesn't have regret over what he admitted to doing. So he reaches out to the New York Times. And with all due respect, look, everybody does this. And it's a shame, but the fame game is the way it is. Remember Kyle Brotzman, when Mr. Brotzman missed the big field goals that allowed, and I know, I'm sorry, Bo, I'm sorry for saying, that allowed Nevada with Colin Kaepernick to beat Boise State. Boise State would have gone to the Rose Bowl, possibly played Alabama for the national title. Not kidding. Brotzman misses the field goals, People get mad at him. Nothing like that you would get at any other school. That's why people come here, because people are so forgiving. And instead of giving the story to Channel 7 with Mark Johnson that has been so religiously covering him, or Tom Scott, or anybody at the Idaho Statesman, what did they do? They went to Tom Rinaldi of ESPN, and Rinaldi is vilifying people, and that, Boise State made him unavailable to everybody locally. And you see that all the time with people that will give stories to national reporters and not the local people that make it happen. Getting in the New York Times is a big deal for Coey. It's a big deal. And then we have, and I'm sure it's getting a reaction at the prison in Cuna. And then, building upon that, you have now all the local reporters, and again, they're just doing their jobs, the wannabes. They want to get that big interview, and they want to get on camera, like people that got in Lori Daybell. And the reason why Nate Eaton was so successful is because he worked the story harder than anybody else. He actually went to Hawaii and caught them, and he had such a rivalry, not from him, but from the Daybells, that she decided to grant him an interview. That, to me, is more credible than talking to the New York Times. Look, if it leads, it bleeds. But really, tell me, and then now we're going to get reactions of the families and everything else. Does that really move the needle when you have a guy who now is blaming everybody but himself for what he said that he did? He didn't want to get the needle. He didn't want to get the firing squad. And now this is a major story. It's unfortunate. I really like the Seattle story where you have journalists not posing, not doing their jobs. Now you have somebody saying the Seattle police chief actually lives in Chicago, which is terrible if that's true.
Chief, you know that people are angry that this was 5 hours that your department waited to tell people that there is a shooter on the loose. Why wait 5 hours to tell people? And then here we are 17 hours later, and you still don't have that person.
Yeah, again, you're right. We do not have that person in custody, but we wanted to get it right. Again, we were searching the IMAX theater. It was possible that person could have ran in there. If that person would have been taken into custody, that would have been our second shooter. But we're still looking for it. I understand that people are angry. You should be. Everyone should be angry.
Do you have video of this incident from the Seattle Center? You reviewed it yet? They have cameras there.
I do not know if we have video of it. I have not had a briefing on that just yet.
I got to stop right there.
And there we have a gentleman from Cairo News Radio 97.3 that is going to rip him. So people are angry. 5 hours now. We're mad. This is the problem when you work for an idiot. And I'm not talking really about the police chief. I'm talking about the mayor of Seattle. Peace, love, and understanding, and socialism this, and Jayapal that, and Livingston this, and we all need to have a news conference. We're not letting the public know what's going on, and it's crazy. But this is great reporting. Now, here is the entire argument between one of the Seattle reporters and the Seattle police chief. Well, we'll get to that in a minute. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO, that said the CCTV cameras are racist and had them removed. Now they want the cameras. Are there cameras outside the Seattle Center where the people were shot?
I've been told that the Seattle Center does have cameras, and we are in the process of pulling that footage to see if there's anything relevant in there.
Well, to back up on that, too, the CCTV cameras have been a real talker. This could have happened in the Stadium District, and you decided to turn those off pending an audit. How do you feel now?
The safety of the residents of Seattle is my highest responsibility, and I take that very seriously. In the course that we've charted on the CCTV cameras, which is a matter of public record, that means balancing various kinds of safety for different communities, and that is the motivation behind the course that we're taking.
Okay, so we have a mayor who shouldn't be the mayor. We have a police chief that's out of town, and we have a city in turmoil. This is why more and more people will be coming to Boise and other places. And I could see why they're very, very angry. Let's see. A 15-year-old suspect in the Space Needle shooting will be arraigned. Another suspect is still at large. 3 injured, some released from the hospital. A 2-year-old injured. And, here you have the police chief getting mad for being called out for living allegedly in Chicago and everything else. And once again, this should give you, with all due respect, she makes the mayor of Boise and the libs here seem like they've got PhDs.
There was no direction from Governor Ferguson's office or Camilla Davenport's office to wait to do the press conference until they got to me.
As soon as we coordinated.
Okay, so was it the governor? Was it the congresswoman? Was it the mayor? It certainly wasn't the police chief. This is why these liberal bastions, these beautiful cities, are failing. We elect a socialist. And look, you got Mondami with the shootings in New York as well. He won't condemn it. He won't, reach out to the Jewish people. He's talking about his city-born stores of flea markets or whatever they are, where it's going to be like going in and, welcome back to the Soviet Union, everybody. The Soviet Union supermarkets brought to you by Mondami. And like I said, we'll talk Kohberger, but there isn't really much to say. There really isn't much to say at 580-5436. We have Zelensky now, as we alluded to with Donald Trump, with Jonathan Savage from Fox News Radio. We have good old Zelensky, who has shot a missile at a Russian or a Iranian ship. The Ayatollah's mad at him. And you got to give it to Zelensky. A year or 2 years ago, the guy had no cards. Today, he's got cards. Today, he's seemingly doing very well. Maybe he could help us, which is pretty wild when you think about it. The war is still going on. 84 now continue to be closed. The Oregon Department of Transportation saying that the fire is getting close to the power lines. And they are going to check IDs and stuff. And if you're not local, you can't scam your way and go, hey, I'm just going to the Buy Mart, if you will. No, that's not going to work. It's not going to work. So very scary times for our friends in Idaho, obviously in Eastern Oregon. And it's nice to see, I was watching Channel 6 this morning where you've got Canyon County coming out to help the folks in Owyhee County. It's time for prayers. It's time for challenges. And we're just talking about people trying to walk to work or what have you. Imagine taking the bus, what a challenge that is as well. Now, we could talk about, Jimmy the flatback raccoon, but we won't. These are just some of the issues that we are going over here at 580-5436. Always appreciate you joining us. And still, I continue to look at these great photos of Idaho Patriot Thunder, which were, wild when you think about just everybody that came out and did such a great job. And you have the volunteers, you have the guy with the cannon. Literally, he brings the cannon, and everybody's driving away. And he's got the cannon right on the back of his station wagon. It's just so Idaho. So if you get a chance, please take a look at those photos, share them with others. It was such a blessing to be a part of everything. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. So if you're just waking up, the big story nationally and locally, locally it's the fires. In addition to that, Kohberger has some outrageous things. We'll talk a little bit about that. And getting back to the Seattle thing, though, it's so rare that you have people holding incompetent, nincompoop governments accountable. And here you have the police chief who, let's face it, you can make a lot of money being in the police, getting mad when a reporter says, hey, man, where were you? Now, he was out of town in Dallas, and then we have speculation that he lives in Chicago. And if you let this speculation go on and on and on, it can have a detrimental impact. And here's the Kevin Millerism of it, if you will. If you continue to erode public trust, if you continue to say all these crazy things, this is what's going to happen. Sadly, a 15-year-old in custody and one more on the loose.
I have been here working as hard as I can for this city from the day I got here. You got that?
There are reports that you are not in town often.
Their reports are wrong. Do you understand?
Let's go, man. Let's go.
You understand?
So when
Let's go.
It's so bad, the press person had to haul him away. Yeah. And again, Now we have people, you've got conservatives going, the DEI police chief and socialist woke mayor were grilled by the media, as they should be. So God bless the press in Seattle. Okay, let's get you to work safely and on time. Those of you that are working today.
Good morning, Kevin.
And good morning, Glenn.
Good morning. Can you hear me still?
I can.
All right, cool. I read the article that you put up about Kohberger and his desire to change his plea. And, according to the article, the judge asked him if he committed each individual murder and each individual crime. He said yes. He was under oath when he did it. And he, again, pled guilty to each charge under oath, said he did it of his own free will, his pleas. And, he's a coward. He said it under oath. I don't see where he can go back from that. He's done. Stick a fork in him. He doesn't like his punishment. That's just too bad. I think the people that he killed would much rather be alive. I think their family members would rather much have them still here. He took away 4 people forever. And you know what? He's lucky he's still alive because, honestly, I'd get my buddy over there from Nampa, and we could set up the firing squad. We'd take care of him for free.
Now, Glenn, you'd really volunteer to be you and Brian would do that?
I'd bring my own ammo for this guy. He is completely evil, and he said he did it under oath. Not once, but I believe 8 times, twice for each charge. Once that he did it, and once that he was guilty. So, you know what? He also, according to the plea agreement, waived his right to appeal. Now, what is he doing? He's trying to appeal. You would think that somebody who was studying criminology and criminals and law and things like that would know better. You would think he knew better.
Well, he has nothing else to. He has nothing else to do.
That is true. It was his choice to take the death penalty off the table. Now he's got to suffer for the rest of his life. He could have just pled guilty and got the needle or the firing squad, and he wouldn't have to suffer anymore. It'd just be over.
Well, the funny thing about this is here's a guy that apparently heard from his attorneys that the death row cell was an 8x8, and that terrified him.
You know what? That's a lot bigger than the people that he put in a box. I have no sympathy for him whatsoever.
Yeah. But what do you make of, and again, you're going to have people that are, they want to get the network special. And, then we had people doing tours and everything of the CUNA facility. And look, our prison system is in crisis. Our jail system is in crisis. There's a lot of crisis going on, but Kohberger gets the attention.
Yeah, he shouldn't get any. It's a similar idea with the mass shooters and the school shooters. They do things for attention, and you know what? We should never say their name or anything so they don't get the attention. We should just not even say Kohberger's name if we could. Just call him the guy that killed 4 people in North Idaho. Take away the fame, take away the notoriety. Don't give him a reason.
What would you say to him if he were listening right now? Because like I said, I know we're number 1 in Ada County. I think we're number 1 in Canyon County. We're talking jails and the prisons. I don't know if they, for some reason, they get the 580 in CUNA, and then in Ontario, we're moving up the power ranking. So what would you say to that guy right now if he's listening?
You said you did it under oath more than once, and you did the crime, you're going to do the time. That's all there is to it. You chose to do these things of your own free will. No one forced you to go kill these people. You pled guilty of your own free will, and now you have to suffer the consequences. That's how life goes. You choose your actions, and you face the consequences. Period. End of story. Suck it up. Be a man. You did it. I'm sorry. What about all the people that you killed? What about the families that will never see their loved ones again, that you took in the prime of their lives? They had years ahead of them. They could have had families. They could have had kids. They could have had so many things, and you took all that potential away, and now you're going to cry like a little baby because you're in an 8x8 cell and the other prisoners are making fun of you. You're an idiot. Wake up.
I would agree with you.
I had to censor it, Kevin, because I was ready to go.
But to me, it's fascinating that, and look, there's a lot of gatekeepers, but it's amazing to me, like, if you pitched a story to the New York Times, they tell you to pound sand, but Kohberger gets the front page.
Kevin, I don't understand why the news, well, I guess it's because it's sensational. It'll sell newspapers. Is it a good story? Not really. But it's salacious and get some clicks. It's a clickbait story.
Yes. It's the clicks. It's all about the clicks.
He's not going to get an appeal. He's not going to get a new trial.
Oh, no.
It's not going to happen.
No, he's not going anywhere.
No. Hopefully he does us all a favor and takes himself out. I hate to say that, but we're spending a lot of money on this waste of space.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Glenn, I know you're a busy little Glenn, but it's always a pleasure to hear from you.
Thanks for the time, Kevin. I just had to say something about this coward that really has no reason to be on this earth anymore. He needs to be gone.
Because you know who's next.
Is Brian behind me?
No. Brian's a little later in the program. Where it's Mr. 640 that's going to join us now here.
Oh, Al in Ontario.
Yeah.
I'm smarter than everybody else. Everybody else is dumb. I've got a really big brain. Kevin, just shut up and eat your grasshoppers, brother.
On that note, thank you very much. Take care, Glenn. We go to Al in Ontario. Quite an intro, an honest intro from Glenn in Nampa. Good morning, Al. Would you like to respond?
I would just like to say that I was very impressed by Chandler yesterday. All of the graduates from BSU and BSME, they probably wouldn't have known what the Oracle of Delphi is, okay? But Chandler did, and Chandler has the ability to basically track logic and reason, which so many don't. And it's really a huge problem that we have in our country today. We live in the socialist states of America, the failed states of America. Everything's a failure, including our legal victim grievance insurance industrial complex. That's why we have this problem with Kohberger. It's all nothing but a bunch of these activist judges and everything that push everything. I got a book that it talks about in the 1950s, and it shows how when people committed murder, and the date they committed it and the date they were offed, okay, and it was like within 6 months. Okay, we need, the whole country's gone insane. Okay, the whole country's insane. They're a bunch of socialist freakos. Okay, and they don't understand anything of the basic human condition, because what they do is like what you were talking about. What about Boise becoming like the center of STEM? Yeah, everybody knows STEM. The only problem is that's all they have is a brain stem. They don't have anything else. Okay, the real human condition. Okay, understanding, the Apollonian and the Dionysian aspects of the human condition. They don't understand that at all. So we're totally failing. The forests are on fire and everything is totally inadequate. Because guess what? Because what's behind their eyeballs is totally inadequate. I don't think we could put together a group of people that could actually put out these fires. I don't think we could put a group of people together that could actually thin out the forests. We don't have.
Now you're ripping the firefighters. Now you're ripping the firefighters. Really?
Listen, I'm ripping society because it's not ripping the firefighters. But you see, this is your inability to follow a train of logic here, Kevin. But that's okay.
Just asking a question, and just asking a question, and now you're attacking me. Sure, go ahead.
No, hey, it's the arena of ideas, baby. I'm throwing a haymaker, baby.
I understand.
This is the UFC arena of ideas. If you can't handle the arena, just give me the microphone. I'll take it. Some say you get the microphone every day, but anyway, I digress. I will concede that point to you. Please continue. Okay, you tap out, baby. You got to tap out when you get out from Ontario in the UFC arena of ideas. Because I start throwing haymakers, beating you around the head and the shoulders. You say, no, I can't take it anymore.
Just because I asked a question in the middle of your rantings. Yeah, please go ahead. Yes, you're right.
I give you the hard questions. I give you the hard things, and look at, man. Hey, it's logos, ethos, and pathos, baby. Aristotelian persuasion. Learn about it. Okay, go back to studying about the Athens, right, and study about the dialogues back in the day. Basically, that's what we are. Thrasymachus, baby, Thraximachus, however you want to say it. We know what justice is. Justice is what's in the best interests of those in power. That's the way it is. We know that. But the people don't know that because they just, Kevin, like you thrash around at the leaves of a problem, but you'll never go down to the root of the problem. You'll never dig deep because guess what? It's easy to thrash around and go along with the crowd. But the crowd's always wrong, right? And the crowd responds with animal spirits always. And there is no Apollonian reason, logic, order. Okay, so that's really the reality, and this is why we have the DSA. But what's the difference between the Democratic Socialists of America and the Democrats? They all want the same thing. The only thing is the Democrats are smarter, and they understand that they're destroying America slowly but surely. It's a gradual process, and they know that if they try and hurry the destruction of America, what will happen is people will rebel. So the whole thing, they don't like the Democratic Socialists. The Democrats don't like the Democratic Socialists of America, even though they want the same outcomes, right? So what they have to do is they understand it has to be a gradual. Look how they've destroyed America for the last 50 years. Look at it. Look at this country. I mean, everything. You got the government, the federal government. Oh, and Dylan got it right the other day when he said, yeah, it is the federal government that's the problem. And the federal government runs everything because they got the printing press, right? If you think that the thought processes and everything is different, and
we've gone from Kohberger to the printing press. This is an amazing call.
Well, look, I'm just telling you. If you want to know why we're being destroyed, okay, it's because everybody's taking it easy in life. You can't take it easy, Kevin. Okay, you look at our military structure. Okay, you look at that. Okay, these people these are not very competent military thinkers, okay, that we have in charge. I hate to say it. Where's our so we have high-speed anti-radiation missiles. They're called HARM. Okay, and you shoot those and they knock out the radars and everything. Okay, where's our high-speed anti-hypersonic missiles? Where are our hypersonic missiles? They don't exist. Why? Oh, well, we're worrying about how we can integrate women and men and how we can integrate, men that don't have genitals or whatever into the military. It all, remember, everything is connected to everything else. Learn to see, understand the destructive nature, okay, of society when they go into this whole socialist, non-competitive way.
Thank you, Al, for that filibuster. Al in Ontario, everybody. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Window World Boise. Check them out today, windowworldboise.com. We'll tell you a little bit more about them in a minute. Locally owned, veteran-owned, right there on Chinden Boulevard. Sean Hannity today at 1-580 KIDO.
KIDO Talk Radio.
KIDO, the president, as you heard on Sean Hannity's show right here on 580 KIDO, was in Michigan yesterday. If you missed it, he held nothing back as usual.
But I'm just thinking about it. This is maybe going to make news because I've never said it. I'm just thinking about now. When they take something over, it's always dirty. The sidewalks are dirty. The people are, I hate to say this, not clean, okay? The curbs are loaded with you know what? The smell is terrible. I mean, I see it happening to cities. Blue cities are all blue. They're all blue. We don't have problems with the Republican-run cities, I mean, for the most part. But they're dirty. I said to somebody about a certain city, I don't want to say the name of it, but it's run by the radical left. I said, how is it doing? Because I love it. And they said, it's filthy dirty. It's so dirty, they've never seen it like that. It's so filthy dirty. And I just thought of it. Nobody ever says that. You know, I'm sort of a clean freak. I like clean. Do you ever see Washington, D.C.? Do you see Washington? What happened? Washington, D.C., it was filthy. Graffiti all over the place. We fixed up 72 monuments and fountains, and we've done an unbelievable. We took the graffiti off the beautiful marble columns. We have new grass going down. But you know what we did the best? We stopped crime in Washington. It's down 88%, and we moved out over 5,000 career animals. We moved them out, and it's really considered a very safe city. All the restaurants were closing up. Nobody wanted to operate a restaurant. We have a great restaurant here. Where are you from? Michigan. Where's my restaurateur? He was one of the great. Where's Mark? Mark, you're right in front. How'd you get such a good seat? He's a great restaurateur, but everything you have is clean. But you know, it's true. And I'm just saying, they take over. Everything becomes disgusting and dirty. It's dirty and filthy and grimy. It's not clean anymore. Look at Washington, D.C., what I've done in a short period of time, working with the Department of Interior, Doug Burgum, and the whole group. We have done some job. We've taken graffiti-filled statues all over the city and monuments and waterfalls and everything. The beautiful reflecting pond where we did some job. Somebody comes along and starts cutting it with a knife. They're sick. It's in the hospital now, but it's going to get better very soon. It's almost ready to open. We could have kept it that way for a while, but I didn't want to do that. I want to have it fixed perfectly. But these people are very terrible. But think how beautiful Washington, D.C. is. But the most important thing is we have very little crime. And there's a statistic that's incredible. 2% of the people create 91% of the crime because you can handle 2% of the people. We get them out. And our military, our National Guard has been unbelievable.
Yeah, and again, they criticize him for that. Good morning, Kevin Miller with you, 580 KIDO, the president from yesterday. We'll get your reaction. Phil Hardy will join us next hour to talk about the fires, and fires, unfortunately. And we're still in July in Idaho. Let's get you to work safely and on time at 580 KIDO. That means Dave Burnett is standing by at the very ready. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Kevin, from the Idaho Pizza Company studio. Traffic now really in pretty good shape coming out of Canyon County and Ada County. No major problems to get in the way. 84, the freeway over the Blues, closed Ontario to Baker City, and then US 20 west of Ontario to Burns closed as well. Vinson Lumber is your cedar factory outlet, saving you up to 70% off the big box stores. Now in Kuna, online at vinsonlumber.com. I'm Dave Burnett. That's your traffic now on KIDO.
I think we're having trouble here, even in Idaho Falls. They're warning residents to prepare for the wildfire season and protect themselves from wildfire smoke. Now, whether you're in Idaho Falls, Idaho City, or Kuna, Idaho, wildfire smoke can impact communities everywhere. And when we're taking a look at what can you do, I guess you can monitor air quality. What are we in, the purple, the red? Limit your outdoor activity unless you're one of these people, these brave, hardworking, diligent people that work outside. And remember, take precautions to reduce indoor air pollution. And then we have this scary thing about preparing for potential evacuations, getting an evacuation route, getting a go bag, getting a meeting place. Crazy when we think about this. You know, we go from the most beautiful, peaceful, tranquil place to live to where we are today. Keep it here with us throughout the morning. We'll give you the latest. 580 KIDO Winter World Boise brought you this hour of the program. Thank you, Winter World Boise, winterworldboise.com. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. Fire expert Phil Hardy joining us live from Washington, D.C. Phil, good to have you with us.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you?
Well, during your beloved World Cup, I'm fine, thanks. The rest of the country got a taste of what happens out west all the time. I thought of you as everybody east of the Great River, they were complaining about the western wildfires and the smoke, and we've got plenty of that here. What was going on in your mind when that was even the President of the United States was talking about it?
You know, it really was one of those things where I thought it actually was going to be a problem for the World Cup final in New Jersey. And this terrific rainstorm came through and just flattened all of the smoke. And it turned out to be a beautiful day. But honestly, I thought they were going to have to postpone the game. It would be impossible to play at a high athletic level in the levels of smoke that are common in Idaho in the summer, but completely uncommon here on the East Coast.
Yeah, and again, it was amazing how they had this great epiphany of how bad the wildfires are. From your point, you're monitoring the fires not only here in America, but all over the world. What do you make of our fire season right now?
Yeah, it's a mess. It's pretty bad. It's as expected. It's going to get worse. It's not going to get better. It's still only July. And, you know, we're seeing just almost unprecedented levels of use of our assets to suppress these fires or to control these fires or to shape these fires. You know, firefighters on the ground are going to be completely exhausted in no time at all if they're not already. Aviation assets are obviously very helpful and needed. They're never enough. And this year, we're going to probably see the limits of never enough. And, you know, as bad as things are here, good Lord, they are so much worse in France and Spain.
Yeah, and it persists. So where do we go from here? We have 84 closed down, one of the rare times that happens. Of course, it happens more often than not, but closed for the second day in a row because of the fires. Now hitting power lines, if you will. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so, I mean, what we're dealing with here is what we expected because we had such a lack of snowpack this year throughout the Intermountain West. And that really does help us, obviously, keep down fire season and keeps things greener. So things have browned off much earlier than expected. And, you know, there's really nothing that can be done about this, you know, other than, you know, ongoing extensive forest management and rangeland management. You know, we need more goats. I know it sounds hilarious, right? But, we just need a more comprehensive approach to how we manage our public lands. You know, you rarely see these sorts of fires on state lands or private lands because they're managed far more intensively for the beneficial good. But we simply don't do enough of this in our public lands. And the reality is we spend far more trying to suppress a fire and then for the things that happen after these fires to try to mitigate for flooding and for other things that occur once the landscape has been so, you know, radically disturbed. We just don't have our priorities correct in this country, and it's hard to see how we're finally going to get there. You know, it seems that we're far more willing to pay 3 or 4 or 10 times the cost of post-fire mitigation than pre-fire prevention, and it's getting worse rather than better. The number of acres actually around the world burning, it goes down. It's just that there are more people living in places where fires can happen. Now, what we're having in Oregon and Washington right now is truly, I'm not saying it's unprecedented. We've had fires like this, you know, throughout history and before recorded history. But when 1 million acres are burning all at once right now, which is over 1 million acres in Oregon and Washington, that smoke is going somewhere, and that smoke is going to go right through Idaho.
And again, we continue to deal with this. And there's no effective lobbying that can happen on this, is there?
Well, you know, I think the smart lobbying now is to try to educate people to stay indoors. If you absolutely must go outside, you know, you want to be wearing a mask. And people are like, oh, a mask. Well, no, this is really serious. the small particulate matter that people should be familiar with right now, we call it, PM 2.5. This gets into your lungs and into your bloodstream, and it can cause, people who have weakened immune systems or heart disease, you can very easily die from breathing too much of this smoke. And what's too much? Too much is a few days, so if you have children, you don't want people you're elderly, you don't want them anywhere outside. Stay inside and do your best to run your air conditioning and stay away from activities, like sporting activities. If your kid is going to go out and play a game, don't do that, right? We're in the middle of the crisis. Trying to survive the crisis is what you should be doing.
Well, and then what if you work outdoors? That's the tough part.
If you work outdoors, you got to wear a mask. You got to hydrate, wear that mask, make sure it's a proper mask. An N95, I believe, is the number I got. I have to go back to COVID here, right? But, if there's nothing wrong with wearing a mask when the smoke is this bad. Firefighters wear masks when they go into buildings. It saves them from smoke. It's the same thing, right? But, what else can people do? I bang on about if you have a house, make sure that there is no brush nearby it. You shouldn't have bushes under your windows. People don't really realize that fires, enter up through your eaves, so into the house and burns the house from the inside out. It's not the way you otherwise think about it. These things become absolutely essential as we see, fires moving in to Idaho, literally crossing the border from Oregon. And we're going to have more of our own fires in Idaho. And the majority of these fires right now are being started by dry lightning. And those are very hard to predict, obviously. And they're very hard to fight, especially when they're in remote areas.
Our great friend Phil Hardy joining us, Kevin Mill in the morning at KIDO Talk Radio. Going back to this issue, we just had somebody call in, and they called in to the business line. But according to the Oregon Department of Transportation, and this was updated 5 hours ago, Baker City in Ontario closed due to wildfire. They're impacting power lines, actively burning. For public safety, the freeway will remain closed until conditions improve and crews can assess the damage. We don't have a lot of people out here, and we can't really flood the zone, if you will. Another infrastructure issue that we have. Is there anybody, and yesterday we played a clip from Senator Sheehy talking about what's really going on in Iran and his experience in Iraq and Afghanistan, and it was so compelling. Can this guy lead the charge? Obviously, we have a lot of great senior folks here in Idaho in the Senate. Where is the tipping point going to come from, Phil? I mean, you work with these folks across the country all the time. Is there any hope?
Well, there's always hope, and Tim Sheehy from Montana is really just a spectacular human being. I count myself very lucky to know him very well. We speak just about every day. He's an optimist by nature. He has to be. He's a war fighter, politician, and an aerial firefighter. But we need to be doing so much more. We need to be using so much new technology that is now available that we never have had before. We still don't use it. Our firefighting is still stuck in, the 1950s and 1930s in a lot of respects. We are only slowly integrating technology that can help us control and manage these fires. And we need to be working at a much faster pace and scale. And President Trump and his people, they do recognize this. But, Congress is slow. There's never enough money. And it's a very tough order to integrate new technologies. But, I don't know how many of your listeners know, but, one of the major things that did happen this year is the creation of the United States Wildland Fire Service. For the first time, we have a federal fire service that's job it is to put out fires. We've never had that before. We simply relied on the Forest Service, to put out fires. And that was not the intention of the Forest Service, is to be a fire department. So we now have a fire department. Now we need to stock that fire department. We need to give it the tools that it needs. So there is change happening. But, weather is weather. And when you're going through a particular period of drought and not a lot of snowpack in the winter, these things they become inevitable. So you try to live with Mother Nature as best possible and protect yourself using common sense and other tools that have been, proven effective. Don't let a tree, rest on the side of your house is one of the things, which, by the way, when I lived in Boise, I bought a house that had trees that were touching the house. You had to get rid of those things. Everyone who has those things, got to get rid of them.
Our great friend Phil Hardy joining us. What about fire treatment? I mean, you work with these big planes that dump, fire retardant in water. Can't we just get a fleet of them and just flood the zone, if you will?
We probably have half as many planes that do this as we did 25 or 30 years ago. So the number of planes that are available to do this job is less. It's fewer. Sure, we need more. The government doesn't really make enough money available for this purpose. These are actually all privately owned aircraft. The Europeans do it differently. They have the Air Force operate them, and they have fewer than we do. So it's quite it's hard to understand how we don't have a bigger fleet of aircraft to do these jobs that we need. So yes, the ones we have, I was just looking at the statistics. We have planes that are flying 11 missions a day. In a normal fire season, you might get a plane that flies 3, 5, 6 missions a day. 11 missions a day is quite a large number. So they are working flat out, but there's simply not enough of them. What we are lucky right now is that there are no fires really much to speak of in California or Colorado or Montana, places that are going to cook off eventually as well. If every place cooked off all at once, we'd all be cooked, right? Because we simply move these assets around to where the fires are, and they are rather sort of predictable. This is the time of year you expect Oregon, Washington to be burning, maybe Northern California, and then it moves into Idaho. It's like a clockwise thing. So, we've gotten away with it, but in a year like this, we're not going to get away with it. We're going to have a lot of trouble.
Yeah, and again, we have these poor homeowners that, and this is very unusual, very unique to the West, perhaps the Mountain West, where you got to have your go bag ready. You got to be ready to evacuate.
Absolutely.
You're going, this is the year 2026, yeah.
I know people in Southern California who came within a mile or two of losing their home who didn't know what a go bag was. And I don't understand how by this moment, if you live in the West, you don't know what a go bag is. And a go bag, you've got to have, it's not like your pictures. You better have digitized your family photos by now. But, your driver's license, a credit card that you don't carry in your wallet, certain birth certificates, marriage license, things you can prove who you are, cash, a couple $100 cash minimum in a go bag, right. Passport. So you just grab that bag and go, right? Because everything else in your life can be replaced, but you need to be able to identify yourself and get through the first day or two when you're somewhere else.
Is there anybody that's doing it right?
Oh, that's a really great question. Believe it or not, the country of Greece is actually starting to do it right. And you look at Greece and say, how can this poor little European country be doing it right? Well, their entire economy depends on tourism. And they had a couple of bad seasons of fire where they had to evacuate tens of thousands of tourists, from some of their islands. And they woke up and realized and said, hey, if we don't deal with this, we're not going to have an economy at all. So they have thrown the kitchen sink into satellite fire detection, prevention, mitigation, aviation assets, better training, use of new technology, because their entire economy depends on it. So until we get on a real war footing, and believe me, there are states like Washington State, they're doing a really much better job. They no longer rely on the federal government to fight these fires. They try to handle them themselves. And that's the way each state has to look at it. Montana is doing the same. The trick to fighting fires successfully is fighting them when they're small, under 10 acres. And if you use satellite technology to pinpoint a fire as soon as it breaks out, or even a camera, there are lots of really amazing cameras that are set up everywhere now, even in Idaho, that can detect smoke and use AI to determine whether or not this is an actual fire. And you just go and put it out when it's small. I mean, it sounds simple, but the other part of that equation is if you're going to put out fires when they're really small, you have to do forest management at a real scale. Because if you don't remove the fuel, you're going to lose the next battle. So it really goes hand in hand. And some of these things, look, nature is going to take its course, and we shouldn't be building subdivisions where these areas are completely fire prone. But the population of our country continues to grow. People need to live someplace, so we have to try to tame the environment to the extent possible. But, you're not going to put anything in the Franklin Church wilderness. And when the church burns, it's going to burn.
Our great friend Phil Hardy joining us, Kevin Mill in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Phil, you study the states. What's the difference? Is there any difference between how Utah handles fires and how Idaho handles fires?
Yeah, actually, I think Idaho handles fires better, to be honest with you. Governor Little's been pretty proactive about using certain tools. The Idaho Department of Lands has been, pretty proactive about using, new tools, satellite technology, cameras, proactively putting down some retardant in certain areas beforehand. Idaho Power wraps its power poles, with, fire prevention tools. Idaho's pretty good. It hires its own number of aircraft to fight fire immediately. They're water-based aircraft. They're small. They're fire bosses. Idaho does a pretty good job, to be honest with you. I think it does a better job than Utah. But we have more forests in Idaho. And, the state timberlands, the profits are, go to the school fund, right? So it's a constitutionally mandated thing that these funds need to help pay for the maintenance of schools. So you better do a better job, right? So, I think some states are just slowly coming around to the idea that relying on the federal government is not a winning solution at the present time.
Well, and the challenge is with reductions of budget, where do you really go from here? In a perfect world, could we end these western wildfires? Or is it just this is how it's going to be?
Well, again, I think Idaho could spend more money. Don't get me wrong, and the legislature doesn't want to spend a lot of money. We get that. But, fire is a natural disaster that you can predict is going to happen. You may not be able to predict where it's going to happen. But if you suppress fire, you need to do much more forest and land management. We are not going to suppress our way out of this problem. You can have all the planes and helicopters you want, but if we don't, clear the brush, rake the forest, cut the trees, especially the dead ones, we are going to be in this cycle for forever, and, there's certain people who think, we can cut the tree down and we'll just leave it there and it'll mulch and, it'll turn into something good for the environment eventually. It's like, well, yeah, that'll take over 2 years. And in the meantime, it's just fuel, right? You need to take it out. You need to get it to a timber mill, a sawmill, which unfortunately, most of which have closed due to the environmental movement. I mean, we have a lot of problems in this country, Kevin, with fire.
That we do. You've worked with everyone who is anybody in Idaho, and you know them well. Obviously, these people are lifelong Idahoans. You take a look at the governor, I think the thing he cares about the most, obviously education, and then his background, ranching, farming. So you take a look at what he's done, and obviously his predecessor, Butch Otter, was the same way in handling this. When you have, now you can't afford to have these fires because you have Micron coming in and all these big businesses. So, in your talks with the governor, you could tell the smoke is getting to me. What do you think he would like to do if he could?
I'm pretty sure, that the governor does, and he was just here speaking to the president, and I'm sure he does reiterate the need to address this issue. And I'm sure the president, it's hard to be front of mind until the smoke is in your face, right? So the president did get a good whiff of the smoke, during the World Cup. And the basic reality, Kevin, comes down to the fact that there's more people east of the Great River than there are west of the Great River. And the power in our country is really dominated by Eastern folk, and they don't often have to deal with these catastrophic fires. So appropriating more money, we don't have the votes for it, right? So, we do count on people like Jim Risch and Mike Crapo and, all throughout even Senator Schiff, and Senator Padilla from California is fantastic on dealing with fire issues. It's just basic reality to those of us in the West. But for the people out back east, it's just a nuisance. Whereas it's really a life-endangering, prosperity endangering problem to the Intermountain West.
Phil Hardy joining us. We always appreciate you, Phil. Anything else you'd like to share with us today?
Yeah, again, I just, check your phones for what the AGI, the air quality is. When it's getting up into 200, 300, 400, 500, don't go outside. And if you have to work outside, wear a mask.
Phil Hardy, to be continued. One day we hope to see you again.
I'll be there in September, my friend. I'm looking forward to seeing you.
Thank you, Phil. Our great friend Phil Hardy joining us to talk fire safety. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. The new rankings are out, best state rankings, and we'll have a blog for you on that as well. Where is Idaho? Are we number one? No, we're not number one. Are we number 5? It's not looking good for Idaho. Are we number 10? No. The number one state, according to U.S. News to live in, is Utah. Yes, apparently they ranked high on crime and corrections, education, healthcare, natural environment, the economy, fiscal stability, infrastructure, and opportunity. Idaho. Oh, Idaho. Here we go. We're number 1 in crime and corrections, number 12 in education, number 9 in healthcare, natural environment. You can't tell because of the fires, unfortunately. Number 3, the economy, 32, fiscal stability, 36. Don't tell this to Governor Little. Infrastructure, 18, and opportunity, number 6. Oh, whoops. That was New Hampshire. Idaho, crime and corrections were 8, education 30, healthcare 16, natural environment 14, the economy, that's what I thought, number 3, number 6th most fiscal stable state to live in, infrastructure at 27, and opportunity is at 16. So I'm sure people will be picking up this story. We will have the author of this on coming up. By the way, apparently, the state is 83,569 square miles. Our GDP is $135.6 billion. 42% of our population is college educated. We're finally over 2 million people, and the median household income is $81,000. We'll talk more about that coming up. But again, Utah number 1, we are number 7, which isn't a bad thing, of course. As I said before, and we're getting a lot of pictures coming in, but the area, again, it's closed. 84 is closed. It's interesting, and whether we're contrarians, whether we're reporters, whether we're curmudgeons, it's interesting when you take a look at the Oregon Department of Transportation, and maybe I'm missing something. But, and again, they're busy fighting fires. But the latest update we have from them on X is that I-84 is closed in both directions between Baker City and Ontario due to the wildfire impacting the power lines. Now, again, that's the latest update we have from them. And if you have to, and this is the frustrating thing, it's, we had a young lady that just called us. She didn't call 580 KIDO. She called, 344-6363, and then got my my business line, if you will, which is kind of wild. But she said, hey, I got to get back to Oregon, and I don't think that's going to be happening for quite some time. And it was great to really hear what Phil Hardy had to say, because Phil deals with this all the time. Phil checks in. He's, works with these folks on Capitol Hill. And you would think that among the billions and billions we have, we couldn't come up with some type of firefighting Air Force, if you will. Some of our top stories we are covering, national news. Kohberger wants his conviction overturned. We have the fires closing everything down. As Phil said, time to break out the COVID mask. We feel for you, those people that are working today, especially those people building houses. Man, dudes, I don't know how you do it. I was walking Sunday, and, as part of my Walk So I Don't Die fitness program, and I saw a guy hauling, plywood on a Sunday morning. And I'm going, man, that takes a lot of guts, a lot of direction. And obviously, we want people around, and it is not very safe to be outside. So there we have it. More from Captain Obvious coming up. The war with Iran continuing to go on, but the president has said this time they really, really, really want to make a deal. We'll see if that happens. And, by the way, Glenn and Nampa reacting to our speech yesterday from Senator Sheehy. Cool, my adult children don't really understand why Iran can't be allowed to get nukes. That speech is a good summary of why. So much more going on. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Apparently, Utah number 1, and we are number 7. Although if it stopped the flood of people coming in, we wouldn't mind being number 49. Let's get you to work at 580-KIDO. Traffic time. Good morning, Dave. Let's take some calls about the issues mattering to you. Obviously, we're taking a look at the fires. Another big national story. Fauci. Apparently, stupid Fauci, and the media is ignoring this story. And we'll call him Stupid Fauci. Stupid Fauci actually, you're going to love this. Stupid Fauci actually had a diary. Diary of Ouchie Fauci. And in it, he talks about being so enamored with himself and the media attention. And apparently, this shows you sometimes how the media and the politicians are colluding in bed. He reveals that when he was ordering people to stay indoors, when he was closing businesses, when he was mandating the end of the world as we know it, he went out to dinner with Jake Tapper. Now you're going to go fake Tapper, as the president calls him? No, Jake Tapper from CNN. Now, no one is covering this story. He's preparing to face the Senate because his diary was leaked. Think about that for a moment. CNN, ABC, NBC, AP, The Washington Post, The New York Times, they've all failed to report the Fauci diary, apparently revealing he knew COVID-19's mortality rate was lower than he publicly promoted and misled the public with messaging contradicting internal data. If you missed Fox and Friends, we'll share that with you. By the way, our man Jim Jordan, who has appeared on this program, thanks to our other friend Congressman Fulcher, had this to say to Fauci. Do we have this, Sweet William? Let's play it.
Do you agree that there was a push to downplay the lab leak theory?
Not on my part.
Really?
Really?
Wow. I think most of the country would find that amazing. I still got 11 seconds.
But look at the facts. I've kept an open mind throughout the entire process.
All right, I yield back.
Yeah, Fauci. Senator Paul, my investigation uncovered that Anthony Fauci kept a diary. What he wrote privately when he told the country are two different stories. And again, this has been released by Senator Paul. This is crazy when we're talking about the profound failure of our public health system to cover these things. They're calling it the pandemic paper trail, if you will. And Dr. Fauci, who we all wanted to trust, and he was a nice Fauci. I know nobody liked Fauci in Idaho. Nobody liked Fauci. He was a bad Fauci. Ouchie Fauci. But this is alarming. And this shows you the need for Newsmax, for Fox News, for everything else. And by the way, in the department, I knew them before they were famous. Here is Matt Gutman, who I used to know from ABC News, now with the big CBS.
Newly released diary entries by Dr. Anthony Fauci are shedding light on his soaring notoriety during the COVID epidemic. The documents released by Republican Senator Rand Paul include Fauci's reflections about being invited to A-list parties, calls with Barbara Streisand, but also some uncertainty about the origin of COVID, whether it started in a wet market in China or leaked from a Wuhan lab.
Yes. Let's go to the President of the United States on this one. Here at 580 KIDO.
Everything down, and I didn't.
Absolutely. But given what you know now... Had I taken his advice, the whole country would have been closed down, and much of the country was open because I didn't close it down. What I did do, though, is with Operation Warp Speed, is we got things done that nobody's ever seen in terms of all of the gear necessary, and we learned that the cupboards were bare. You know, when I took over, we had none of this. We didn't have the ventilators. I know. We didn't have anything. We ended up becoming the number one ventilator producer, and we were supplying ventilators to other countries by the time we got going, and we did a great job. No, but I was not a believer because he said everybody has to wear a mask. Then he said don't wear a mask. You remember it was a whole thing. Wear them, don't wear them. I said, what are you doing? He started off saying don't wear them. Then he said wear them. Then he said don't wear them. And I lost a lot of respect for him during the period of time. Right. But I inherited him. He's been there since the 1980s. I mean, he was a guy that was there that I inherited. And with time, I didn't mind him. I didn't find him to be bad, you know, personally as a person. But I didn't agree with what he was saying or what he was doing. And when Biden came in, he inherited him. And he gave him a tremendously high position. And then he gave him a pardon. He did indeed. And, you know, I think we all thought there was a lot of science behind what he was saying and maybe not so much. But, Mr. President, if you would have known then what you know now, would you have fired him?
Well, I would have fired him. But, again, I didn't listen to him. So when he was with Biden, he was like the god. When he was with me, he wasn't even close. And I wasn't very close to him. I dealt with him very little. I didn't agree with many of the things he said. No, he wanted to close up everything. Look at all the states that remained open. Those states remained open. He wanted everything closed. And it just turned out that closing wasn't so good because, you know, it's very interesting. Some of the states that fared the worst in terms of the spread were actually closed. Okay, explain that. Nobody can explain that.
He did more damage than anybody else.
They did a lot of damage in a lot of different ways.
No, it's wild. Yes, that is not Peter Ducey, but Steve Ducey. Once again, returning to fill in for Lawrence on Fox and Friends. Always great to see old Steve when he's on the road and all these kind of things. But here we have, and you think this is bad, we've got the Biden tapes just released from the House Judiciary Committee. Let's see, in 2016 and 2017, Joe Biden sat down with a ghostwriter. These were the tapes that special counsel at the time, Robert Hur, said were so alarming, were so bad, that it showed him to be an incompetent nincompoop. I know that's a double negative at 580 KIDO, but he's an incompetent nincompoop that was the president of the United States.
Something quality? I can't. Some of this may be classified, so be careful with it. Okay.
Yeah, be very, very careful. Be very, very careful. Very, very careful. Like I said, if this were Donald Trump, remember when they raided Mar-a-Lago? It was a big deal. The president, again, at the time, the vice president, the former vice president, repeatedly admitting that these were classified documents. Remember, he denied this, and the media covered for him. So we have Ouchie Fauci and JoJo, to quote Dave Petzo, that will join us coming up. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. There we have it, the Ouchie Fauci, if you will. More coming up next. Stay with us, 580-KIDO. 94 is still closed. The fires are continuing. Idahoans helping out Oregonians, Oregonians helping out Idahoans, and the air is very bad. In Seattle, apparently the city didn't want to admit this, but it appears that the shooting at the Space Needle was a gang-related shooting. The police chief is out of town, and then we have the diligent media giving those folks a hard time, as they should. In addition to that, we still have the war in Iran going on. The president says they really this time, they really mean it. They want to cut a deal. We'll get your reaction to that. U.S. News saying that Idaho is the 7th best state to live in. We'll talk to somebody from U.S. News coming up before the end of the program. And, of course, Utah's number 1, which I don't really get, but Utah is number 1, and Idaho is number 7. And we'll go over the criteria. We'll have that story for you probably by 10 o'clock at 580 KIDO. I'm trying to think of anything else. Thank you, Phil Hardy, for joining us. And, by the way, let me just go back to this. I-84 in Oregon is closed in both directions between Baker City and Ontario. The Fox Fire, which continues to burn now 51,000 acres with no containment right now. The fire is impacting power infrastructure. So, once again, to our dear friends in Eastern Oregon, that they really should be part of Idaho. They really should be, because do you think the people in Portland care for you? Let me just tell you about the government in Oregon. And I know there are a lot of good local governments in Oregon. A lot of good people that, they get their can of soda, or in my case, sparkling water. They open it up, they have a cold drink, and they thank God for where they are. But you take a look at when we started 107.5 FM. And again, it's an engineering marvel that it travels as much as it does. We had folks in Oregon, they were very upset with us. And all of a sudden they said, we can't get the publicly paid for Oregon Public Radio. So you notice, you get past Caldwell, in my opinion, I think they've increased the signal on that, because it just blankets in here now, because and thank goodness we've increased the signal on 580 KIDO, so Fruitland and Payette and Weezer can get the signal of freedom, if you will. But right now, you take a look at ODOT and others, they're advising travelers to avoid the area or expect significant delays. Now, this is one thing that is a challenge here, because as you know, and whether you're our boy Greg Ferreira, who travels to Oregon a lot, whether you're Kevin Miller that goes there once a year but is always fixated because it's been a while since I've seen green, you've got the Blues, you've got the Dows, you've got all these amazing hardworking truck drivers that get up the hill, get down the hill, and then my wife will go, Mrs. Miller goes, yeah, they got to watch out for those brakes. I go, what do you mean the brakes? The brakes can overheat. And I'm like, whoa, Nelly. And I get scared. But these truck drivers that have to deal with people going out of the way, they do it every day. So I don't want to scare people, but apparently there are no local highway detours that can accommodate the interstate traffic volume. So they're saying check tripcheck.com for road condition updates. I try to do that. My computer blocks it, which is odd. But like I said, we are in the hot zone, if you will. And this is why I know it's a pain for a lot of people that we need desperately to have a lot of snow and a lot of rain. And we hopefully will be praying and getting much more snow than we need, so we don't have, and a lot of rain. I know a lot of people don't like rain, but I love rain. See, if we had some rain, maybe this would help. But again, the latest here on the ground is we've got I-84 closed between Baker City and Ontario. And I mean, if you're in Ontario right now, or Huntington, or any of these other places, man, it's got to be brutal. So hang in there. Hang in there. Some of the stories on our website, I know some of our contributors covered this. We have outdoor people canceling outdoor pools, outdoor concerts, outdoor everything. Apparently the Goo Goo Dolls went inside. The city of Nampa has closed its municipal outdoor swimming pools and limited non-essential outdoor employee functions due to poor air quality in the Treasure Valley. I believe everybody is doing that. Darrell Brunner emphasized the importance of employee safety and expressed hope for improved conditions to resume normal operations today. I would say that goes to all those people that are, helping in homeless shelters. Obviously, our friends at the West Valley Humane Society, Lake Lowell Animal Shelter. Those animals need to be cooled off. So please contribute, please help. And again, our friends at the Boise Rescue Mission. Before we get back to some of the other issues, I do want to remind you tomorrow that Reverend Bill Roscoe will join us in studio, I believe, for his final media appearance as the head of the Boise Rescue Mission. We will have the person that is taking over, Jen. She'll be there as well. And we'll have a conversation in the 8 o'clock hour about the past, present, and future of the Boise Rescue Mission. We look forward to that. And it's been a while since I've seen Bo. I think it's been about a month, so I look forward to seeing Bo and letting him know that, no, this is not AI. I am still alive. Back to the air quality issue. I know this is not exciting stuff, but it is very, very important that we continue to let you know that the air quality is bad. The wildfire smoke continuing to impact all of us here. As we said, take precautions. Get out the old COVID mask, the N222 or whatever it is. And I know that's a pain. And if you're like me, you're a little claustrophobic. It is challenging. But we have given you some good topics. And by the way, because this program is not really a radio show, if we're saying it's not like, it's more like an old shoe. And because this is an old shoe, we have a lot of people that like to contribute and like to comment on things. And this is from Nicole, who has broken down Al in Ontario. And this is, let's see, I opened up my chat GPT this morning and let it record a portion of you and Al having your discussion. I thought I would give everyone a little giggle again this morning. This is exactly where you start with one topic and ended up 3 zip codes away. The path goes something like this. This is Al. People don't know the root of the problem. The crowd always responds with animal spirits, Apollonian reasons, the democratic socialist, Democrats. America has been destroyed for 50 years. The federal government, the printing press. People are taking it easy. Our military leadership isn't competent. Meanwhile, poor Kevin is probably wondering, wait, weren't we talking about Kohberger? It all has the hallmarks of someone who uses impressive-sounding vocabulary, is clearly well-read, connects every issue to every other issue, never actually lands the plane before taking off on the next runway. I would agree with you. If this is the same Al you told me about from your talk radio station, this transcript fits your description perfectly. He's articulate enough that you keep listening, but by the end you're asking, how did we get from a murder case to the Federal Reserve to military strategy? Thank Nicole. This is brilliant. A meme caption for this could be Al's GPS, destination, answer the question. Recalculating, Kohberger, ancient Greece, socialism, the Federal Reserve, military doctrine, or the host. So, Al, what do you think about the Kohberger case? Al, excellent question. It all started with the printing press. It's the verbal equivalent of opening 37 browser tabs and insisting they're all connected. Nicole, thank you for that. See, AI can be useful. It's breaking down Al in Ontario. We go now to 580 KIDO traffic. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Kevin, from the Idaho Pizza Company studio. Traffic now on the freeway, very busy, coming out of Canyon County into Ada County. Working a couple of accidents. One's at Broadway in front, southbound Broadway traffic being affected on that one, and at Whitewater, it's a roundabout near Stewart. Fence and Lumber is your Cedar Factory outlet, saving you up to 70% off the big box stores. Now in Kuna and online at fenceandlumber.com. I'm Dave Burnett. That's your traffic now on KIDO.
And one move going on in Washington today for those of you like our friend Chuck Ambrose that had a friendship with Lindsey Graham before he was Lindsey Graham. Today there will be a memorial ceremony for him that is starting right now. The Capitol ceremony honoring Senator Lindsey Graham, surrounded by friends and family of the fallen senator, and eventually he will be taken to his final resting place. But I don't know if anybody caught it. Jake Tapper the other day had on something that is pretty wild when you think about it. And apparently everybody's in the documentary film business. So there's a guy who's been following Lindsey Graham for 4 years. And he has Lindsey Graham talking to, I don't know if it's Putin, but I'm sure it's Netanyahu. And he revealed a lot of things that apparently it's a good reason why, that if he were alive, he might be in trouble if you will, because this thing is going to be insane. Now, the challenge is if you have 4 years of breaking things down, of content, A, that's a heck of a hard drive. B, not only is it a heck of a hard drive, but that's a lot of material. You're going to need the Al AI to break this down. So maybe we'll get it in a year or two, but, you know, there's nothing like, and for most of us, we'll never go there, being in the rotunda. And there you have J.D. Vance, you have Chuck Schumer, and on the other side you have the senators. And obviously, whenever we go to a funeral for a friend, a family member, a colleague, it is so personal. And as I said before, here you have the majestic doors, the wreaths, the florals, statuary hall, I believe. If not, I guess it's in the rotunda, where here you have the military folks getting ready to escort the coffin in. Remembering Senator Lindsey Graham. God bless you, Lindsey. Thank you for your service. We sure do miss you. We roll on. Dave Petzel will join us talking about the economy and Micron versus Apple next. Thank you all for joining us as we start the day on the right side. Of course, our great friend Dave Petzel will join us. We'll talk to Dave. We'll find out about the economy. Obviously, when we're talking to him, this big story that we shared with you from the Wall Street Journal concerning Micron and Apple going toe-to-toe, the ramifications it means for those of us here throughout the Treasure Valley. We'll take a look at that. Obviously, other news of the day when we're talking about the economy as well. So we'll talk to Dave and get his thoughts on that. And then, again, coming up next hour, we will have someone from U.S. News and World Reports concerning the best states to live in. Utah is number 1. We are number 7. Maybe that's not a bad thing. Let's go to our great friend Dave Petzel, who joins us now at 580 KIDO. Dave, good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I thought of you because you have me trained to look at the Wall Street Journal. And here we have a rivalry renewed. Micron versus Apple over Chinese chips. If this doesn't have Dave Petzel and Kevin Miller at 580 KIDO written all over it, I don't know what does.
Kevin, it's interesting how this little company here in Idaho has turned out to be such a big global force. It really is. We forget how global this whole thing is. It's amazing. It's truly, truly amazing. And again, with the Chinese trying to get into chips, trying to get into every single part of AI, and they're behind a bit. The best thing they can do is try to steal, and they certainly have from Micron, as we all know. And now we've got internal issues with each other. And that, of course, is the last thing the whole AI infrastructure needs right now, Micron included, is to pick a fight with the biggest company in the world. By the way, Apple did become the biggest company in the world again.
It's kind of like pretty wild. And, of course, they say they have to raise prices on all the Apple products, and that brings out the Apple people. So, really, this is Apple wanting to use Chinese chips on their foreign products, if you will, stuff sold not outside America. Micron countering, saying this just opens the door to China coming in and flooding us with cheap Chinese chips. They cite what happened to the U.S. steel market. Dave Petzel, here we go. What say you on this issue?
Yeah, we do not want to open the door for China. It's a terrible idea. This is a country that doesn't want to be an economic rivalry. They want to destroy the United States. It's a completely different attitude. And with that attitude, it was totally correct to say, no, this is ridiculous. We're not going to let China buy Micron. And that was, I think it was like $20 a share at that time. It was ridiculously low price compared to now. But on top of that, you think about it being basically the only DRAM manufacturer at the time in the United States. Strategically, defensively, this was a horrible idea. And, of course, they turned it down. And you roll the clock forward. And China still struggles with no matter how much technology they steal, it's a little bit behind, and so they can't seem to get caught up. They would make chips if they could. It employs a lot of people. They're dependent on the rest of the world. They have inferior chips, and so they can't run things as quickly as well, and so they stay behind. And it's something they really want to do, and they certainly throw everything at it. Everything legal, illegal, it doesn't make any difference. Allowing them in, I don't understand what Apple thinks they're doing. It's a terrible idea, and it's certainly going to hurt all of the chip stocks, not just Micron, with this kind of talk. If you want to make your own chips, go make your own chips. Don't do them in China.
Well, and again, this is where we love to get your thoughts, whether it's at Money Matters, Saturdays 8 to 10 here at 580 KIDO or anywhere else. The president will decide. Both companies have begun lobbying the administration, buying the ballroom, doing this, doing that. You can't really split the baby with the bathwater. Micron says, look, this will devastate us. Apple says, look, we're not going to let the Chinese in, but Micron continues to slow roll the supply, inflate their profits. A lot of charges both ways, so this is where we love having Dave Petzo. He gets to make the call on this one. What do you make of Apple's arguments as well as Micron, sir, in this point?
I agree with aspects of both, okay? You know I'm a free trader. I believe in free trade, but I don't believe in trading with China, especially in technology. It's a bad idea, and all they're going to do is steal it, reverse engineer it anyway, regardless of whether you make it there, sell it there, what have you. It is simply a bad idea. And on top of that, we just simply don't want China having access to the cutting-edge technology. We have to stay in front as really a function of saving the world. Otherwise, Taiwan goes, and that's the whole thing. I mean, it's Taiwan is, as you and I've talked before, it's the linchpin of the entire world because they make all the chips and design them there. And it's not all, but it's enough of the world. We already don't make enough chips to supply the world that the economic collapse would be something else to see if Taiwan is not pumping out any chips anymore around the world. So it is a tenuous situation. It's just not good. And we're dealing with an enemy that lies at everything they say. They have no intention of holding up any deals. They simply want to steal your technology, and they want to run the world. That's not somebody you can deal with. And we've tried that with Iran. We've tried that with China in the past. It's just not doable. They only understand losing, and losing on the technological front, and the fact that they would lose in a war against the United States. That's all they understand. And that's all we think, because we don't think that way. We think that we can just make nice, do little deals, and get along. I think we just don't want to trade with China. I know it's a big market. It just simply needs to not happen on any technology.
So what do you think happens?
I think in the long run, they're going to continue to get the second-tier chips. There will be, as far as their particular market, I don't think that this administration is going to be accepting of the fact that they're going to be dumping chips into the United States at the time that they are trying to make sure that we have the manufacturing capability and that they are behind. So I don't think that they want Apple to do that. I know that Tim Cook has access to the White House. I understand that they buy a lot of iPhones in China. I don't think they ought to be buying their chips there. If they want to make their own, then build a fab wherever you want to in the United States and make your own. But the idea that they should be putting chips in and helping China develop the next generation of chips, which you know they're not looking to have China build them chips that they've designed that are inferior. There's no way. So these are cutting-edge chips that they want to build over there. That gives them the technology China would love to have.
Dave Petzo joining us here at 580 KIDO. So, Dave, we're going to have someone on from U.S. News coming up. You remember the old days when it was U.S. News and World Reports. They've got their best state rankings. Utah is number 1. South Dakota, Minnesota, North Dakota, Nebraska, New Hampshire, and then Idaho. What do you make of that? What do you make of those states? And please don't give me the usual Dave Petso smack. I don't care. Fake news coming. Blah, 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 blah. But what do you make of? What do you? I've always been obsessed with Utah. What do you make of Utah being the belle of the ball, if you will?
Yeah, I think that they do have an awful lot going for them. They're just like Idaho does, right? They're not a zero tax state, but they are a low tax state, and they seem to be operating well. And they're no nonsense. If we can fix the DMV, let's go do it. Let's not act like it's not fixable, that big government is a solution. And that filters down, Kevin. It's not just a political statement. It filters down to an attitude about business, about promoting business, about let's bring them in. Let's get people here. And let's figure out how to make this work. And it's a beautiful state, too. It's attractive in multiple ways, just like Idaho. There's so much diversity in the mountains and forests, and of course we know their national parks are legendary. It's a beautiful state, and there's a lot of space there. So I think that it's one of those things that it makes sense to me. And of course it's fake news, Kevin. You know I had to get one punch in there. Of course it's fake news.
Yes.
And doesn't make any difference at all. They rotate state to state as if this thing is some kind of is totally in play, like there's big policy changes year to year. But you notice that let's just put it at a group and say, okay, so XYZ is not number one. It doesn't matter. They're in the top 10. These top 10 states have a lot in common. They're small government. They're inviting to business. They don't want to kick business out. They figure out how to have a fair amount of tax to try to run as lean as possible a government. It's very common with all of those states. And I'm not an expert on each government, but I can tell you the bulk of those were red.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. It is interesting to see how this plays out with Utah, and I don't think Utah's probably the most populous out of this as opposed to, let's say, South Dakota or any of these other states. I think it's actually kind of good that we're not number one. Utah for the fourth year in a row, number one. But I think it's good for us because we have so many people moving in and we have the challenges of congestion. It's interesting, though. South Dakota, I could see. Minnesota with Governor Walz. North Dakota, I could see. Nebraska. That does fit your red state descriptions. Here's how they break this down: education, healthcare, economy, infrastructure, opportunity, fiscal stability, natural environment, crime, and corrections. So they weight those categories, however they do that. And it's interesting. Again, it's the summer. There's not much to do, so here we have it. Now, are you a pop culture guy? You're a pretty hip guy, aren't you?
Only for the 80s, not really today.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't follow the local or the new Who's Sleeping with Who. So I'm not very good at it. Sorry.
Here you just destroyed that segment here. I was trying to establish credibility. I mean, I hear you have a secret account on TikTok. That's what I hear.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So, Kevin, you just obviously didn't know your guest here because you've known me for a long time, and you have not known me to be a follower of local hip hop. So,
well, I again, from an economics model, though, we have a big deal going on, and this hasn't been reported yet. And coming up soon, there'll be another blog from Kevin Miller that Kevin's wife, mom, and perhaps Dave Petso, when he's feeling sorry for him, will read. This one is ESPN will be covering the Banana Ball. Now, the Savannah Bananas, and I followed this guy from the very beginning, even when he self-published a couple books. It's so big now, it's not even the Savannah Bananas, it's the Crazy Critters versus the Firefighters. Not one show, but both shows at Albertson Stadium, which they're working on right now, will be transformed into Banana Ball. I don't know if they've sold out both shows. They will be televised on ESPN on Friday night and Saturday night. And Shields, just because, again, this is what I love about you. You deal with the real world. My world is, hey, everybody, did you know tonight at Shields you can actually go get a wristband, and if you get a wristband, which I believe are free, the next night you can go see the critters and the firefighters with the wristbands and get autographs from these people that, again, are very gifted entertainers and athletes that will be in Boise. So I suppose we start with the Boise State angle, once again, creating revenue in this escalating world of big money college sports.
Kevin, it's a fantastic idea, and I have heard of them. It is an amazing thing that they've taken baseball and turned it into a fun to watch deal. I think that baseball has made a comeback by becoming more interesting by itself. Right? It took too long. They've tried to tighten that up. They've done a good job of that, but. I love people doing something different and new, and it is perhaps it's a attention deficit problem that we have. We can't stick with one thing for a long period of time. But how innovative and awesome is it that they come up with a whole brand new entertainment venue, and it's very, very popular. So hats off to them. I think it's great, and I also thanks for spinning it into the economic realm there, Kevin, but it is, again, it's another interesting thing going on right here in Boise, Idaho, generating revenue and interest and excitement in our hometown. So I think it's a win all the way around.
Yeah, it is really, really interesting to see this phenomena. And again, you know, I think you buy your tickets from them, they pay the taxes on it. So you basically... it's a really grassroots story of success. Now, a hard segue, because you do spend time in Seattle, and it's weird because for years I've known this about you, and I never really got into Seattle until it started getting even crazier and crazier. We have the police chief that apparently is out of town. We have the media going, this was a alleged gang shooting, and for 5 hours, you guys didn't do anything. We don't have the videotape. We've got the socialist mayor. We've got the very progressive congresswoman. We've got the governor who's driving people out of the state. In one of our, thank goodness we live in Idaho states segments, how bad is Seattle when you go to visit?
It's okay outside of downtown, if that seems to be an okay statement. I don't think it is. I don't think it's okay at all. But if we herd people into one area and don't worry that the beautiful downtown that we used to have is uninhabitable by normal people, then my statement holds. Because if you just happen to live somewhere else, it's like people saying Portland's really okay if you're out in Lake Oswego. Okay. How is that okay? And so, Kevin, on a day-to-day basis, when I go see my grandkids, and we go to the parks and things like that, it's better than it was. There aren't homeless people encamped in every park, which was truly how the left saw the solution to homelessness, is to be really inviting. And it's okay to have drug needles and stuff on the playgrounds. That changed, but they didn't change in getting them out of the downtown corridor. They moved the camps around just because then the locals have to put up with it for 3 months and then it goes somewhere else. But the reality is they do not have any kind of programs to deal with it. All they do is blabber about it, spend unreal amounts of money on it, and the reality is it just continues to be a very dangerous and ugly downtown that I can't visit anymore with my grandkids. And that's not because I'm from Idaho and I'm scared of a big city. My daughter won't take her kids downtown either. It's unfortunate. It's like you've accepted it, right? It's that same thing that sometimes whether you're in business or what have you, and something doesn't work very well, something new that you're doing is not working very well, and you go, you know what? At some point, we're going to probably accept that this is the new norm, and it's okay. And that's exactly what Seattle feels like to me. Nobody really tries to do anything of any lasting significance. They babble about it, and then they sit around and do what government, far-left people do. They sit around and have meetings and pretend to care and never solve a problem which is exactly what we're talking about. If you don't make the call, if you don't go do something, you don't actually walk across the street, take your neighbor's trash cans out when they're out of town. You talk about it, but you never do it. And that's not caring. And they never do anything to care. And so that's really the frustration for me, for my family there. And it's not just Seattle. It's all up and down the coast.
More coming up with our great friend Dave Petzo next. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. So, Dave, I usually open up with, is there something that you would like to share with us? Is there something that you would like to share with us based on the economy and, of course, the markets, if you will?
Yeah. There's no question that we're in a tumultuous time within the market. It doesn't look like it on the surface, right? With the Dow is up, so a number of stocks are up, but within the NASDAQ, particularly tech stocks, this whole struggle with AI and what's going on with the chip companies and this huge run up and now sell off, and are the Mag 7 spending too much money? And they're just finding any excuse at all. Too much money. All the deals are really circular deals. What that means is that the vendor, NVIDIA, is lending money to the buyer to buy the chips and all those things. We're worrying about the same things they were worried about before. I think that ends, and then we go on to something else to worry about. But the reality is AI, this transition to AI is costly. It's going to take time, a little bit of time anyway. It's fast. We can't perceive what the world's going to look like in 2 years, let alone 5 or 10, right? I mean, it's just crazy what could be behind all this, but it costs a lot. Are we really going to get data centers in outer space? Maybe, maybe not. SpaceX goes to 200. Now it's back to 100. It's kind of a wild environment within the market that looks kind of quiet. So watch for that, and watch for the turn as well, because we can see it absolutely turn around, and chip stocks are, the trade of the day again, or the trade of the month. And we've seen this 2 or 3 times already this year where they pull back and then they rip higher. And so I'm not saying it's over for Micron and company. It's just one of those things that we've seen this much more turmoil in the market beneath the surface than people see on the indices.
Dave Petzo joining us here. It's interesting. What do you make of, and you'll love this one, and here we go. Oh, that's fake news, Kevin. I know you so well I can have a conversation with you without you, but let's see. Investors are shifting away from AI stocks, as you just mentioned, into other sectors, which we really don't believe, leading to a rise of the Dow Industrials and decline in NASDAQ. Chip stocks like Micron and Intel are experiencing significant drops, from like 1,500 to 1,400. So what do you make of the markets today seem more like a soap opera than really, I guess, the markets that you grew up in. Is that an accurate description, or am I off base?
No, I think that's fair. It's more people are involved in it, okay? So more people being involved in it draws more views, right? So you suddenly say, hey, let's start reporting on the market. If you're Yahoo or whatever, let's pay more attention. Let's do a Google finance page now. And so you're getting much more of it. And you're seeing a lot of people out there, of course, on YouTube or whatever, are going to be pimping different things. And so they're out there talking up the market or talking up the trading system that they have. And when you get sectors that are moving, now you've got the Robin Hoods of the world getting out there in social media. They know how to do it, and they getting on your X accounts and having the bots continue to do stories and drive those meme stocks, and that becomes interesting in and of itself. And the kids are hanging out at the bar later and talking about how much money they made on their double levered, ETF overnight. All that stuff is fed into this reporting that it feels really sleepy years ago, right? And when you think about business reporting, in my career, my lifetime, I remember a kid, they had 30 minutes. It was Louis Rukeyser's Wall Street Week. 30 minutes on PBS. That was it for the whole week. Now you have CNBC, Fox Business. You have all of these things that are out there 24 hours a day. It's a wild, wild amount of reporting, and that's just TV. And then when we add social media on top of that and drive the views, you really get a sense of why all of a sudden it feels like this giant soap opera. I don't think your analysis is a bad one at all. I think it's just because it has become a place to make money, is reporting on money.
And there we have it. Dave Petzo, we've covered the Savannah Bananas, Boise State. I'm trying to think of Seattle crime, Apple versus Micron. Let's end on this one. What do you make of the fires and the economic impact that it does have on Idaho? I mean, obviously, every year we go through this. This is going to be a bad year, as we've talked about. Your thoughts on how this hurts us, if you will.
You know, it's interesting because Idaho's not on fire. Oregon is, but it blows this way. And so, of course we have a few fires here, but not like we expected this year. And I don't know if that's good forest management, plain luck, whatever. But the reality is that we are going to deal with this every single year, good or bad. To some degree, we're going to get some smoke. We have had a couple of years here that we didn't have any. This is always can't go outside or shouldn't go outside or exert yourself outside, all those things. And it's just not a great end of summer when this happens. But it does have economic impact because you're going to find the golf courses are not going to be as full. People aren't going to be out riding the green belt and then stopping by the bars on the way. Yeah, but it's minor. I don't think it's going to be a major one, but certainly for the mountain places, maybe the roads are closed, or why would I go camping? At Redfish Lake in the middle of the smoke. No, I'm not going to. And so I guess it's easier to get a camping spot, but that probably has economic downside to it as well. For the mountain towns, they're just not going to be as busy.
Dave Petzo, the economic bellwether of the Treasure Valley. We always appreciate you, sir.
Appreciate you, Kevin. You have a beautiful day. Thanks for having me on.
Our great friend Dave Petzo, always a pleasure. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Memorial service for Senator Lindsey Graham. The beautiful rotunda surrounded by dignitaries of South Carolina, of the nation. Scanning the globe right now, I can see our friend Senator Risch there. Again, Senator Risch back in Washington, D.C. Remember, he was just at Idaho Patriot Thunder, and the senator doing a great job, as he always does, representing the people of Idaho. And remembering his friend Lindsey Graham. We'd love to get, when we can, get the senator on. And, of course, hear his thoughts on a variety of issues. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. If you were listening earlier or if you're looking for a preview of the podcast, we opened up with the craziness in Seattle. You have a shooting. You have not only the shooting going on, but the failure of the public folks. I don't know why you need a congresswoman to talk about the shooting. I don't know why you need the governor to talk about the shooting. The mayor, the socialist mayor, seemed like she was in over her head, and the police chief was out of town. Now, again, we're not pandering to our Seattle podcasting crowd. What we are doing is, once again, giving you the reasons why people move to Idaho and people love living here in Idaho. Imagine, and as Dave Petzo broke down for us, living in Seattle and what that entails. It's just crazy. Other national stories, we have this for you on our website, KIDOtalkradio.com, where we have Mr. Fauci, Dr. Fauci, who has admitted that he had a diary. And Senator Paul has, how should we put this, released the diaries. And the diaries are not good. Look at how he handled COVID. And not only how he handled COVID, but how he handled everything. And the president spoke about that. So again, we urge you to check those stories out. One story, though, that is fascinating, and we broke that yesterday. We just happened to be watching CNN when it happened, which is how I think a lot of people, whether it's Fox News or what have you, here you have Brian Kohberger, the admitted killer of 4 beautiful, innocent folks in Idaho. They were minding their own business at the peak of their lives at the University of Idaho. The nation obviously was mesmerized by these 4 homicides. And remember, in Ada County, we had, what did we have? We had Kohberger come to town, and, then he decided to not face the justice. He decided to do what all weasels do, which is to run and scream and hide, and showing no intestinal fortitude or no courage. What Mr. Kohberger did was he pled guilty. Case closed, right? It's over. We're done. We're just going to move on with our lives. And Kohberger will rot until he dies in CUNA, right? And then we've had reports, and I don't know why the media does this, obviously because there's a bunch of clicks involved and a bunch of viewer ears and eyeballs, if you will, saying Kohberger's angry. Well, who cares? So Mr. Kohberger decides to reach out to the New York Times, and lo and behold, he talks to the New York Times and tells them that he was, did I get this correctly, Sweet William? That he was bullied or misled by his attorneys. And I'm going, huh? That they scared him into, apparently on one of the victims had an unknown clump of hair. I think it was Ethan Chapman that he had. So he wasn't told about that. So because he wasn't told about that, he believes that he shouldn't have copped a plea. And I guess he has a lot of free time in CUNA to come up with this stuff. So remember, the state spent, $2 or $3 million not only protecting him, but providing him legal counsel. And because, again, there's not much to do in the jail or in the prison, he's reaching out to the New York Times, or they reached out to him. And then because we don't really, we have gatekeeping when it comes to conservatism, but when it comes to the freak shows, what do we have? We have people that you won't believe what Kohberger's doing. So those are a few stories. Here is Britt Hume talking about the Fauci diaries.
Is Brad, and it reveals 2 things really. One of them is that Fauci didn't really believe the stuff that he was saying in terms of the origin of the disease. And he also he's also denied repeatedly, and we've seen it in television interviews and so on, that he was urging any shutdowns. These documents prove otherwise. He brags about getting New York City to shut down its schools and so on, about getting California to do the same thing. So he was very much an architect of what you may remember me calling back at the time, Brett. I called it the worst public policy decision of my lifetime, and I think it was. And I think it's made in some ways even worse now, knowing what we know about what Fauci was really thinking and about how much time he spent in his diaries talking about how famous he'd become and all the glorification he was getting in the news media and how palsy a lot of news media people had gotten with him.
Yeah. Right. One of them being Jake Tapper and others who actually went out to dinner with Fauci. So here you have Tapper, who is ripping freedom fighters like those people in Idaho that said, we don't believe Fauci, we don't believe the propaganda, that we're vilified, that we're shut down, actually having dinner with Dr. Fauci, Dr. Feelgood, if you will. Alarming stories going on. And like I said, you're going to hear them on Kevin Miller, on 580 KIDO. You're going to hear them on The Clay and the Buck. You're going to hear them, obviously, with Sean. You're going to hear them in a lot of places. But you're not going to hear them on ABC or NBC or AP or the Washington Post. Why? Because that doesn't suit their interest, if you will. But here we have these, for lack of a better term, damning diaries of the guy who was in charge of everything. And remember, Tucker Carlson and others, if you, during the time of this, if you spoke out of any type of common sense concerning the Fauci ouchie, if you challenged Dr. Fauci, what happened? You were canceled, you were ridiculed, all sorts of horrific things happened. One of the greatest challenges for me personally and professionally was keeping this program on the air, because you had a lot of people that were canceled. You had a lot of people who, unfortunately, were not allowed the First Amendment. You had a lot of people that were not allowed to say what they actually believed, which is crazy. Think about that for a moment. In America, dealing with the greatest public health crisis of the last who knows how many centuries, you had people ridiculed, silenced, and like I said, there were so many businesses that were destroyed because of the mismanagement. You know, it's okay to be wrong. It's not okay to be wrong, to not admit it, and to cover it up. And let's hope that the Trump administration, through their brilliance, through their everything else that you want to talk about, will decide that, let's face it, we're going to take care of this, and we're going to make sure that this never happens again. Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice if we could do that? To make sure that this stuff just never happens again. Because Dr. Fauci should be held accountable for it. He's made money over this. This is why, whether it's 580 KIDO, whether it's your own personal feed, whether you yourself have developed these things, it's important for you and for others to inform yourself. And that's what we try to do each and every day. So, again, our topics, we have Kohberger and we have Fauci. Now, we're not going to say who's the biggest villain, but it's preposterous that Mr. Kohberger will speak with the New York Times. And I really don't understand why people give people the time of day. Well, we need to hear it. No, I don't think that we need to hear this from this guy. We don't. We don't need to hear that this guy is, a victim. He is not a victim. He's a victim creator.
Brian Kohberger is serving 4 consecutive life sentences after he pled guilty about a year ago to the murder of 4 Idaho college students. But now he's looking to abandon his guilty plea and take the case to trial, despite cutting a plea deal that barred him from appealing the case. In his handwritten petition for post-conviction relief, Kohberger writes that he had ineffective assistance of counsel during criminal proceedings. It is rare for defendants to win post-conviction challenges. Idaho's Attorney General Raul Labrador tells Fox News Digital his office is ready to do whatever is necessary to ensure justice is fully carried out. Max Gordon, Fox News.
Yeah, he's not going to go anywhere. He's going to, this is his big claim to fame, if you will. He's not going to, again, be one of these people that gets out. It's one of those things where he gets to have his day in court, if you will, in the public opinion, and that's going to be it. But there's no way that our state would allow this to happen. No, not at all. So much more coming up on this. And again, here you have Dr. Fauci and his things. If you were a victim of COVID, of the Fauci COVID regime, we would love to hear from you as well. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO. Senator Lindsey Graham, here is Senator Thune.
I don't apologize for being pro-life, he said in an interview in 2022, and probably on a number of other occasions. It didn't matter to Lindsey whether an issue was popular or unpopular, whether he had the full support of his colleagues or whether he was standing alone.
Lindsey Graham, more from Senator Thune at 580 KIDO.
I traveled with Lindsey all over the world as part of congressional delegations, and I saw firsthand just how much he was respected by our allies and just how well he was able to connect with foreign leaders around the globe.
Guy from a humble small town in South Carolina. Representative Sherry Biggs talked about what mattered.
What made Lindsay exceptional was his ability to work on difficult issues while maintaining personal relationships with people who disagreed with him. He believed that conversations mattered. He believed that showing up mattered.
Boy, talk about old school in the age of the clicks and the dips and the emails and everything else. It's relationships that mattered. Traveling across the world. What a life well lived. And for most of us, we don't have that same calling. That same calling of, well, you live for your job, and your job is your identity. Let's go to Elaine in Boise at 580 KIDO. Good morning, Elaine.
Hey there, Kevin. Just curious, if we have to go to trial for Kohberger, is the death penalty back on the table?
Well, I think this is he's already been tried and convicted. I think this is a civil case, and that could be brought into play. But and obviously many people, including myself, believe that he should have gotten the death penalty. He should have faced the music. That would be nice if that would happen. It's sad and repugnant for me to say that, but yes.
That would be the only upside to me, right? But especially with the cost to the state, it's just crazy story. Anyway, that just popped in my head as you were talking about it. Have a great day, Kevin.
Thank you, Elaine. We appreciate you. Let's get you the latest on traffic at 580 KIDO as we continue to do fire, or so they say in some parts of the country, fire coverage. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Kevin, from the Idaho Pizza Company studio. Traffic now on the freeway. We're looking good coming out of Canyon County into Ada County. Another hazy, smoky commute for you. Earlier accident at Broadway in front. That's now cleared up, not causing any problems. Vinson Lumber is your Cedar Factory outlet, saving you up to 70% off the big box stores. Vinson Lumber, now open in Cuna and online at vinsonlumber.com. I'm Dave Burnett. That's your traffic now on KIDO.
And keep it here throughout the morning as we roll along. But think about this if you're, how many of us have recently been to a funeral or, are going to funerals. And here you have Lindsey Graham being remembered by all those people that worked with him. And yes, they're going to have a primary and everything else, but in the end, it doesn't really matter. I mean, in the end, here's a guy that didn't have a family. His priority was going to hang out with Zelensky. And many people will say, well, Kevin Miller, let's take a look at things. He was going to, the conspiracy theories, because we all live in the kooky, wacky, zany world of conspiracy theories where... Well, he was just ready to get this big deal, and guess what happened? A giant Greg Ferrer, Think about that. Let's go to Lejo, who joins us now at 580 KIDO. Good morning, Lejo.
Good morning. The old that clip you played of Trump, it's a fantastic demonstration of his lack of self-awareness in his role in COVID. If he hadn't passed all this money, believed everything everybody told him, then these states wouldn't even been able to shut down and put all this money into their, into their state treasuries. Because remember, he passed like a $1 trillion COVID relief deal. And there he sits naively going, oh, yeah, but I made the vaccine happen. The same vaccine that the pharmacy companies lied to him about that killed and is still killing. I don't get it. How can you be that unaware of what's happened since, your time? And then here's the biggest, funnest thing is that Fauci's whole purpose was to shut down Trump's first administration. And he doesn't even realize that COVID, we were in the best economy I have ever seen. And we had to shut that down. Apparently 2 years into it, we have to shut that down. We have to end that. We have to do all these things, and there's naive little Trump just sitting there going, okay, well, I'll help make vaccines. Okay, well, I believe Fauci. Whatever he said, it's amazing that he's lacking awareness that much. Brad Little took his $1.2 billion to shut down, to fund more state workers, et cetera. I can't handle it. The guy was part of and complicit and incompetent all at the same time, the whole COVID shutdown, and a complete violation of the Constitution. He just sat there and, okay, whatever. It's not affecting me, I guess, or something. I don't know what his problem was there. Anyway.
Remember, he got COVID. He got COVID too, though.
That doesn't matter. It's the thing is that the shutdown and all the unconstitutional violations were a direct result of the amount of money and authority that he allowed, that he flushed away. He said, if everybody declares an emergency, here's your money. And so everybody declared emergency. No state passes up federal money, ever. Why were we the last? We had the fewest. We were the last state to get COVID, basically, according to their statistics. It's because we had it 3 months before. The government was such a bunch of fools, and they carry on in this. And Trump's turning in more and more into an establishment type guy, Monsanto loving, glycophosphate licking, big pharma, whatever, and it's the first administration was great. The second administration is like, bro, I've had enough. I've seen enough. Let's carry on with somebody else. The rhinos are getting him, and he's just bowing to endorse Brad Little. Jeez. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, Lejo. Evan Coleman. Oh, Evan, thank you for joining us.
Kevin, thanks for having me on.
Well, we take a look at this. We always look forward to U.S. News year after year coming up with these, the list of the best states to live in. A state to our south, Utah, number one for the fourth year in a row. That's quite an accomplishment when you consider, well, there's so many other states. We've had record growth in Idaho and other states across the country, Texas, if you will. What makes Utah so special, if you will, sir?
The Utah's four-peat, it's certainly unprecedented. I think a lot of the things that are contributing to those high scores in other states are trending nationally. So, strong economic growth in Texas and Idaho. That's happening in Utah as well. Utah is also, they're managing to grow their economy, but also I think the big thing about Utah is that they're managing to both sustain a fast-growing economy, but then also balance all the other categories of state performance in a unique way that's contributed to its high rankings. So Utah has, I think they're number 2 in economy, number 2 in fiscal stability, number 2 in infrastructure. But then they also, they have super fast economic growth, but then they also have the lowest income inequality in the country. So our index is really looking at how states manage to balance a lot of the trade-offs in governance, and Utah just does a very uniquely good job at it.
Well, plus they have the Silicon Slopes and obviously tourism. They're very similar to Idaho, but they've really embraced the tech, if you will, with the advent of the Silicon Slopes development.
It's super interesting, yeah. And we look at the data and then we talk to experts to try to understand some of these trends we're seeing. And one thing that came up for Utah a lot was their economic diversification. So like you said, they have manufacturing, tourism, their service sector is growing a lot. And so a lot of times any kind of lag in one sector is offset by continued growth in another. And that pattern of diversification, I think, does kind of extend to other categories of state performance. So even at the category level, a decline in one category is often offset in Utah by improvements in another. And so they've just managed to really achieve that balance, man. And the growth of the tech sector is really impressive, and you do see that borne out in other metrics in our economy category, like I think the 9th highest patent creation rate, the 4th highest business creation rate, and a lot of that's probably tied to the tech sector. But even in a broader way, it's tied to the growth of the young population, which we also see in Idaho. But I think the innovation and dynamism of that young population that Utah is both fostering through natural growth, but then also attracting through domestic migration is contributing to a lot of that.
Evan Coleman joining us from U.S. News. Any state in the top 5 surprise you in your findings, sir?
Absolutely. I think this year we did see a lot of shakeup in the top 5. The bottom end of the list is normally a little more stagnant, just because you see states get kind of trapped in when you have low economic growth, it's kind of hard to make improvements in other categories like education or healthcare. But the top 5, we saw South Dakota jump several spots to number 2, and North Dakota jump, I think, over 10 spots to number 4. So that rise of some Midwestern states, that was pretty surprising. And I think that is indicative of some national trends, just with people are a little more mobile now. They have the ability to choose where to live and to work based off cost of living factors. Just with remote work, they're less tethered to physical job sites. And also there's been a lot of manufacturing investment in that region that's drawing in more workers. And so I think the rise of some of these Midwestern states, that was a surprising trend in the data.
I've got to ask you before we get to Idaho, sir, what did you make of the Dakotas, both the Dakotas in the top 5? Again,
I think it was surprising. Just they're far away from a lot of like major population centers in the U.S. Again, in talking to experts, I think a lot of that growth is due to some targeted manufacturing investments and sustained low cost of living that still make those places affordable. We do see, even in places that have been growing for several years, that that can be accompanied by an increase in cost of living that can then reduce population growth in the area. With the Dakotas, we haven't really seen that. The increases in population have not really been accompanied by really severe spikes in cost of living. And then also fiscal stability is a big component of our index. And I think those regions, they've got pretty deep financial reserves at the state level, and they've just managed to maintain high fiscal stability scores that continue to boost them in the rankings.
Yeah, pretty wild. Usually, I believe it's North Dakota when the oil is flowing. There's a big boom, if you will, and when it isn't, there's a bust. So it's again, I'm always fixated and fascinated with the Dakotas. Okay, Evan, what about our state of Idaho? Usually, we're very spoiled here. We like to battle it out with Utah. We can't believe we're in the lowly number 7 position.
Yeah, so it's definitely the 2 fastest growing regions of the country. It would be like the Sun Belt and the Mountain West, and so it is a competitive space. And Idaho has been a consistent top performer. I think they ranked in the top 5 from 2021 to 2025. And it is important to remember, they did fall a couple places this year, but a decline in ranking is not necessarily indicative of negative performance. It's more that they've just been outperformed by their peers in a relative way in some of these metrics. So Idaho still, it's number 3 in economy, and they actually rose from number 4 to number 3 in economy this year. And that's the benefit of continued net domestic migration, growth of the young population. Idaho's also got the highest business creation rate of any state. So those metrics continue to give it a high score. Idaho did see some declines in natural environment, opportunity, and infrastructure. I think natural environment, that might be an unfortunate byproduct of even spikes in pollution due to wildfire smoke, and wildfires don't always respect state boundaries. but there are ways that a state can obviously help mitigate that. But yeah, it's a competitive space, and I think Idaho can still be proud of its number 7 ranking. But I think they are representative of that really fast growth we're seeing in the Midwest, in the Mountain West.
Yeah. A final question, and Evan, we appreciate you joining us here. Evan Kohberger from U.S. News. Not to get too in the weeds, but it looks like education, the state could do a lot better. And I know the governor and the legislature, we spend a lot of money on education, but we're number 30 in education. And then you have some of our other states that are ahead of us, New Hampshire, number 12, Nebraska, North Dakota, and we go to Utah, number 6 in education. How big of a factor was our education ranking? And really, with all due respect, what goes into that, if you can explain that to us?
Sure. So education is a big factor. We weight these categories based on surveys issued to about 25,000 Americans, asking them what they want their states to prioritize. And I believe healthcare and education were the top 2 most heavily weighted categories. So, yeah, middling score in education certainly is going to drag down, it's going to weigh heavily in a state's ranking. Our education category is divided into 2 subcategories, looking at both spectrums of education. So there's higher education and then pre-K. Idaho, it is number 15 in higher education. So some of that has to do with college graduation rates, college attainment, and Idaho does perform very highly. They have relatively low tuition and fees for public universities. And then students graduate with relatively low student loan debt. And so those are definitely strong points. I think in pre-K, that's kind of the subcategory that's dragging down its education score as a whole. So some of those factors pre-K through 12. Some of those factors are pre-K enrollment, math and reading scores for middle schoolers, high school graduation rates, and then college readiness, which is basically scores on the SAT and ACT. And so the weak spots for Idaho there, where they could probably improve and boost their ranking, would be a relatively low high school graduation rate, and then relatively low SAT and ACT scores compared to other states.
Evan Kohberger, we appreciate you. Anything else that you would like to share with us today from U.S. News?
No, I would just encourage anyone who's curious about the rankings to visit usnews.com/best states, where they can see the full rankings, all the scores, and our full methodology.
We appreciate you, sir. Thank you for joining us here in Idaho.
Thanks, Kevin.
Evan Kohberger joining us from U.S. News. Check that out today. We have a link to it on our website. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. We'll get your reaction next. Utah is number 1, and we are number 7. Do you agree with that? Love to hear from you next. Kevin Miller, 580-KIDO. Well, we've learned a lot of things. Number 1, Lee Joe still not a fan of President Trump. Dr. Fauci had crazy, wacky, zany diaries that he revealed how he really felt. Reminds me of Judge Ito. You remember Judge Ito from the OJ case? Remember good old Judge Ito? Ito, where he loved the fact that The Tonight Show and everybody else did the dancing Itos, which was pretty wild, if you will. And the fame just overtook him. Overtook him. So what we're finding out, these diaries released by Senator Paul that will be talked about in the Senate as they continue to honor Lindsey Graham, that Fauci really was covering things up, that he was a bad Fauci. That's one thing we've learned. Others, we're taking your calls on Mr. Kohberger. He wants out. Should he get out? We'll talk about that in a minute. But first, we go to the vice president talking about his friend Lindsey Graham.
I was talking to, a mutual friend of ours, a person who didn't always agree with Lindsey Graham's politics just shortly after his death. And I expected the person maybe to say something critical, but he said, you know what? Even though we sometimes disagreed, I loved Lindsey Graham. It was impossible not to like him. That swashbuckling, infectious laugh, that attitude, that passion that so many others have talked about. Lindsey Graham was impossible not to like as a human being and, of course, as a United States Senator. I was talking to, a mutual.
We get that.
To know Lindsey Graham when I was on the Senate campaign trail for my own Senate race in 2022. And I remember riding in the back of the car with him. During these campaigns, you go from one event to the next and to the next event. And I remember learning a lot from him. I had a lot of people who campaigned with me during that time, but I learned something from Lindsey Graham, the way that he interacted with people, the way that he was so interested in what was going on and what was moving people and what was motivating them and what they were interested in. That affection and love of people was obvious even on the campaign trail, but so too was Lindsey Graham's world-class sense of humor. And in one event in particular, we had just left one event, we were riding in the back of the car going to the next event. Lindsey Graham told me a story about his time in the House. And if I repeated exactly what he told me, Darlene, it would be the end of my political career forever. But what I can say is that I was laughing so hard that by the time we got to the next event, I had abdominal cramps and I was barely able to speak because Lindsey Graham could make anybody laugh and he could make anybody feel at home. I was talking.
Yeah, there we have it. The vice president remembering Lindsey Graham as the Senate continues to honor one of their own. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. So here we have Mr. Kohberger, who, in fact, broke the news yesterday. We have this story for you on our website where he is deciding that, he didn't get a fair trial. Now, a lot of us, we could say we didn't get a fair trial. We didn't really get, himself. We didn't really get our favorite lot in life. We, got gypped when it comes to work or jobs or what have you. We could all be victims. But is this not the most crazy example of victimhood? The man confessed because he didn't want to face the death penalty, which, you guessed it, would be what? The firing squad. We've had Glenn, gun-toting Glenn in Nampa. Brian. Well, Brian's always ready to go for the firing squad. However, here you have people volunteering to put Mr. Kohberger out of his misery. And then we have people in the media that are saying to themselves, well, it's an important story. Well, Kevin, why are you talking about it? Well, we're a little different than the media. It just goes to show you that there is a second act for everyone. Now, is he going to get another trial? No, he's not going to get anything. What he's going to get is probably people at the pen there giving him a hard time right now. And some people may not like the additional attention that Mr. Kohberger is giving people. May not like it at all. And, we could see some issues there. We've already seen some issues with him. Could he actually leave the state? Perhaps. Perhaps he could leave the state, if you will, and, not be free, but he could leave the state because, quite simply, the bottom line would be that he's too big of a hassle here for the folks in CUNA and anywhere else, so they're just going to move him. Because if you have a problem, you move him, and that's exactly what Mr. Kohberger has become. So we'll have more of your thoughts, and again, I think the two big ones, obviously, locally, Mr. Kohberger, number one. Number two, the other one has to be what? Dr. Fauci and the Fauci diaries that we are just hearing about right now. The president earlier today talking about what's next with the Iranians.
But I have some Republicans that, well, why don't we hit them harder? So, it's like at some point. So you have a lot of competing factions. You have a group of people that wanted to be obliterated in the truest sense of the word. Then you have a group that says, this is actually a good time to make a deal for them. If they don't make a deal, then I go back and I finish the job. But that's going to take them forever to rebuild. Already, it'll take them many years to ever rebuild. And if I go back and finish up the job, as some people would like, with the bridges, with the Very easy. I could take out most of their bridges in less than an hour. Less than an hour. But, it takes them 10 years to build a bridge. Bridges take the longest, and power plants are second. I can knock out the power plants. Within one day, all of their power plants would be gone. And I let them know that, with negotiations. I said, look, people want me to do that. I think I get almost the same thing out of it as doing it. But the problem is they'll never be able to, I think about 91 million people without power, without bridges, would have to live. And it's a very, very delicate balance. Yeah. So I think we have a very strong position right now. They know I'm going to do that if they don't make a deal. The bridges are going to be gone. Literally in less than, I would say in 2 hours, most of the bridges, the major bridges will all be gone. And the power plants in one day. And, if I can avoid doing that, I'd like to do that. The hardest thing to build is a power plant. The longest thing to build is a bridge. Takes a long time to rebuild and build bridges. And that's what I used to do for a living, construction. It takes years to build these things. And, and knock them out in 1 hour, and it takes many years. It really decimates a country. So those are the two big things. And then there's always the desalinization plants. And who am I hurting there? I'm hurting the people. So I'm not looking to do that. I just want, very simply, they cannot have a nuclear weapon. Very simple. And they've agreed to that, essentially. We have to get them to, make it formal. Right. But they've agreed to it.
How do you... There we have it from Fox and Friends. And when you hear Fox News, you're listening to 580 KIDO. So what is this? What do we make of this? Let's translate this. The President of the United States, and by the way, thank you to everybody leaking, whether it's true or not, that our missile defenses, our missile battle, our missiles are actually depleted. Thank you, traitors. That's who you are. You're traitors. Now, that could be harsh, but it doesn't mean that it's not true. You're a traitor. Why in the world would we do this? Why would we have senators saying, let's just leave? You can't just peace out. If you heard, and by the way, you can get it on Twitter, easiest way is at Kevin Miller Show, that speech that we shared yesterday from Senator Sheehy, where he talks about in what has happened to his comrades, what have happened to our fellow Americans. These people are evil. Now, the problem here, and maybe you've dealt with this in business, and maybe you've dealt with this in life, maybe you've dealt with it when you volunteered at places, the old Colin Powell thing, you break it, you buy it. And there's no infrastructure for the last, and even you could go for the past 200 years, because they had a Shah before they had the dictators. Before they had the mullahs, they had the Shah. So it's like riding a bike or going to the gym or going on a diet. If you've never done it before, the chances of, the success, it's a low probability. And then you have another dictator or mullahs come in. In the old days, we used to hang out with these people, and they would run these countries for us, and they would respect our interest. Today, not so much. You take a look at the royal family in Saudi, you take a look at these other nation states, they're ruled by one party or one person. If you go into Iran and you get rid of these people, which we should, who's going to run the country? We don't have the wherewithal like we did to rebuild Western Europe. And even then, they had Western culture, Western civilization, Western government. Look at what a disaster self-rule has been for Afghanistan. What is run outside of the continental United States and the socialist parts of Europe? The form of government's dictatorships. China. You could even say, not even say Russia. Democracy is so precious. Democracy and the republic that we have is so rare, even in its diluted sense now, when you compare it to, okay, let's make something out of nothing. So that's the challenge. And whether we want to believe it or not, if our supplies are running low, what the Iranians are going to do, we can make them feel the pain, but then they're going to go after the Qataris, the Kuwaitis, the Saudis, all these people. And if we can't defend, it compounds the situation. And if you're one of these people that are used to printing money and getting whatever you want, the last thing you want is your desalination plant blowing up or your oil blowing up, because then you literally are going back to the Stone Age. So the president wants to make a deal. I don't think that the Iranians want to make a deal. And whether it's health decisions, and I've documented mine, sometimes you have to make tough choices. And that's why we elect these people to lead. More coming up next. We'd love to hear from you next. 580-5436. That's 580-KIDO. Your home for Fox News. 580-KIDO. We are in the fire season, if you will. We'll continue to keep you informed of that one. Do want to thank Phil Hardy for joining us. And if you want to know how states are handling the fires, how states are dealing with this issue, including our state, if you will, make sure that you check out that interview on our podcasting with our man, Phil Hardy. Meta, it doesn't look good for them. More and more lawsuits. Let's take a look at, again, a story that we first brought you yesterday, available on our website. Kohberger, who pled guilty to the University of Idaho murders, has filed a petition to withdraw his guilty plea and challenge his conviction. Why? Well, why not? It was the lawyers. The lawyers made me do it. The lawyers made me do it. Yeah. Okay. The lawyers prevented you from taking the dirt nap. But that's not enough. He told the New York Times, "Hello, New York Times. I just want to be a part of this." He claims he was given false promises. He was told to falsely confess and give a false plea by his lawyers. Now, remember, didn't he have that big knife, if you will? And wasn't his DNA on the big knife? And because his DNA was on the knife, and that's how they found him, whether it was up and up using something like 23andMe, and then the disturbing image of Kohberger and his daddy driving across the country and the feds going through the Kohberger garbage. But Kohberger says, not me. The family of one of the victims expressed disappointment in his attempt to withdraw his plea, stating that he received a deal that spared his life and now wants to roll the dice. Well, there's a lot of people that, they would like that to happen because Mr. Kohberger and the Freak Show would come to where? Would come to Ada County. And once again, we would be the center of the universe, and you would have people covering this story, and that's their job to do that, and there you have it. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And then Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci said he was a bad Fauci. 1,100 pages of a diary released. Boy, your diary that long? I can't even spell diary. We go to Tea Party Bob joining us now at 580-KIDO. Hello, TPB.
Well, good morning, Mr. Miller, and how are you this fine, smoky day?
I am living the dream, and you?
Well, I can see Brundage Mountain today, so things are getting a little bit better up here anyway.
Well, that's good for you.
I don't want to say much about Kohberger because, I don't know, that's something I just hate talking about when I think about what happened with those poor kids. But I want to thank you for having Phil Hardy on this morning, as he gave a good talk on about fire and how important it is to maintain forests by cutting dead trees and clearing the flammable ground cover. You know, as I said yesterday, we have terrible management of our forests, and have had it for many decades. You can't fix this problem overnight, and it will take literally decades and billions of dollars to fix it. Even the conservationists who control huge amounts of land need to change their ways with their roadless conservation areas. You know, if you have no roads, you have limited access, and that means firefighters need to build new roads before they can even go and fight these fires. We also need to allow the farmers and excavators, to help in this effort when a fire pops up, instead of having the rules and regulations stop them from participating when you need them to stop the fires. These are people who are closest to the situations and have been fighting them for years. Too many government regulations keep them from participating. One more thing for the tree huggers who build homes in the forest without taking stock of how to protect their families if there is a fire. Trees are nice. I love them just like everybody else, but not when they're next to your house during a fire. People need to use some common sense. Now, let me say a few things about Fauci, who I hold responsible for killing more Americans than all the wars since 1900. The real problem is the people are still dying and suffering from the side effects of this vaccine that the drug companies were given immunity from any bad effects with an EUA. While Fauci is the one who we hold primarily responsible for these deaths, there were many politicians who made bad decisions like lockdowns, businesses closing, and also contributed to more people dying and caused enormous economic harm from emergency directives given by governors who never had the power to close businesses or restrict people to shelter at home. Even our own Governor Little is guilty of these offenses. And Lee Joe, I love you, brother, but you do very little homework before making comments. Well, the rapid vaccine was a Trump administration initiative and responsibility. It was shared across the executive branch, the FDA, the pharma companies, and on the funds expended that were under the authority of Congress, which could only be the only ones to appropriate $5 trillion across the CARES Act that Trump signed, but it was the American Rescue Plan passed by the Democrats in March of 21 and signed by Biden, which sent out the stimulus checks, expanded unemployment, and the Paycheck Protection Program. This is where the fraud was perpetrated and done under the Biden administration, and it was Congress that was responsible for not instituting checks and balances for giving out these funds. That was a Democratic Congress. There was no one person who was most responsible for these problems, as the authority was fragmented by design. And Congress and two presidents controlling the spending, while governors and local officials controlled the restrictions, and the FDA and drug makers were responsible for the vaccine. Fauci was the most influential advisor, and we all know how many of these mistakes and false statements he made, and it continues to come out. There is no one person to blame. It was a series of bad decisions by governments at all levels, and not something caused by one person. So, Lee Joe, next time you want to place blame, do some real homework. That's about all I have to say, my friend.
You go back to what the president talked about. He, what a amazing time that was for all of us.
It was something we haven't encountered, since the plague. Let's think about that. And this was something that went global, not just here in the United States. This was global. And the smart people were the ones who didn't listen to all of the problems that we were going to have, but instituted rational programs. They didn't jump on the vaccine like it's going to be the with-all to end all. They didn't restrict their people into staying in their homes. They didn't require masks. Common sense is what really pays when you have situations like this. And evidently, we have an awful lot of elected officials who are more power hungry than common sense wise. And that needs to change.
Yeah, I suppose, but, in fairness to the governor, he didn't issue a state mask mandate like the media wanted him to. He allowed local municipalities to do what? To stay open or to make their own, what was essential, what wasn't essential compared to Oregon and Washington and California.
How many businesses were closed because he told them to close? The small businesses, the 57% of Idaho's GDP. Why did he do that? And he didn't have the power to do that. That's what upsets me more than anything.
To be continued.
Yes, indeed. And one more thing. Why did the manufacturers and the people who employ all of our residents here in Idaho, tell them if they didn't take the vaccine, they'd lose their jobs. How many people took that vaccine? How many people are suffering because of its side effects? That's another good question.
Well, I mean, wasn't the vaccine developed under the Trump administration?
The vaccine was developed by Pfizer and the drug companies, not by Trump.
Didn't the president work directly with that, and wasn't that Operation Warp Speed?
He authorized it, yes, but he's not responsible for the vaccine. He had nothing to do with what went into it or the testing of it.
Tea Party Bob, the Gem State Patriot, we appreciate that. Let's go to Concern, who joins us now on 580 KIDO. Hello, Concern.
Good morning, Kevin. Yeah, Tea Party Bob is dead on most of that stuff, you know. I wanted to talk about Kohberger and his case, you know. I don't know, you know, I don't catch every minute of your show, but, you know, the bottom line is, you know, if he wants to reverse his plea, then what we need to do is put the death penalty back on the mat and say, okay, then you have it that way. We'll go with trial and all the evidence, and the death penalty will be instated if you are found guilty. And I would make him double think there about that deal. And also, you know, yeah, you know, what Tea Party Bob's saying, you know, it's like with Trump, you know, it's like, yeah, so he's got advisors and everything like that direct him. You know, he's not a scientist and stuff like that. And it's just like, you know, he went with what his people are telling him. He might have put a stop to it, and he might not have made it all mandatory either. You know, so it's a lot of guessing of what might have happened. But just because Trump was president when the vaccine was released doesn't mean that he understood it all. But yeah, so I just wanted to add that out there. And as far as fires and stuff go, you know, it's like, once again, you know, we got to manage our forces and do what's correct. And we always pay the consequences to everything that we make a bad decision on. So just wanted to put that out there. Thank you, Kevin. Just a short statement there, and appreciate your show as always. And I will continue to listen.
Appreciate you. Thank you very much. We continue on here. Phone number is 580-5436. 580-KIDO. Kevin Miller, 580-KIDO. 580-KIDO, 580-5436. And, you know, we started the show just this, and again, you're probably going to hear more of this, the craziness of what's going on in Seattle. And the Seattle craziness is they've had an insane shooting. People injured, a 2-year-old injured, shot, and there is just no transparency regarding accountability. The people there had to wait 5 hours for the public officials to speak, and really, you don't really need to hear from a mayor, or you don't need to hear from a congressperson. You don't really need to hear from the governor. You need to hear from the police. Did they apprehend anyone? Is there video? And remember, Seattle is one of these liberal loon cities where they elected a socialist, apparently a woman that never had a job. Yeah, never had a real job, a job, and lived at home with her parents. I'm not joking, and gave us the usual socialist propaganda that the lights and the cameras were all racist, and she's shutting everything down. Well, when you shut those things down and then you have a shooting and your police chief, and the rumor here is the police chief in Seattle, and again, it has nothing to do with us, but you think we got problems. They're saying that he's living out of town. And then he gets mad at people for holding him accountable. It's just a mess. Now, one of the reasons why I like bringing this up is it, again, explains why we are so popular And oh, by the way, speaking of which, we do have the article on our website. Utah #1, Idaho #7 when it comes to the best places, the best states to live in, according to U.S. News. Do want to thank Evan Coleman for joining us exclusively here from U.S. News. Now, again, we'll take more of your phone calls, and then we'll have some more sights and sounds of Seattle. We go to Mark, the watchdog of Eagle, Idaho, with Kevin Miller on 580 KIDO. Mark, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Good morning on this hot, soon-to-be hot and smoky day here in Treasure Valley. Since Dr. Fauci and the COVID jab has been brought up off and on the last couple of days, I just sent you for the Gateway Pundit, folks, or you, Kevin. Top story, whoa. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. reveals Dr. Anthony Fauci suffered a potentially life-threatening condition after taking the COVID shot 5 months after he took it and hid it from the world. Apparently, it was a jaw-dropping bombshell last night, days after former White House COVID advisor Dr. Anthony Fauci's private thoughts during the COVID pandemic were revealed to the entire world. The wicked doctor had a life-threatening complication after publicly taking the COVID shot. And apparently, it was reported by the Gateway Pundit that the Senator Rand Paul, chairman of the Senate Homeland Security Committee, recently released diary entries called Tony's Diary Package from Fauci that show a bizarre yet characteristic obsession with fame, even as the death toll from the pandemic grew. In one entry, Fauci describes feeling pretty safe due to the public adoration while cases surged. For better or worse, I'm becoming an international celebrity. Calls from all over the world. This is Fauci. And apparently RFK Jr. told Fox News' Laura Ingraham on Monday night that Fauci suffered from what is called a pulmonary infarction, INFARCTION. According to Verywell Health, a pulmonary infarction is a potentially life-threatening condition. It occurs when one of the small blood vessels in the lungs get blocked. This causes part of the lung tissue to die. So apparently, I don't know if this is like, okay, we have to hide something here. We got to start feeling sorry for Dr. Joseph Mengele Fauci or not. I don't know. But if this is true, this guy was more into getting fame and fortune than doing the right thing. So for whatever it's worth, I thought, I throw that out there to the audience here at KIDO, Kevin, on your show. And that was all I had to call for today.
All right, Mark, thank you for the call. Appreciate it. 580-5436-580 KIDO. And, will the world react to this Fauci ouchie, if you will? That's essentially where we are. Fauci admitting that kind of made it up as he went. And he's testifying before the Senate today. We'll have more on that. We also, here you have this El Said character in Michigan saying, calling Fetterman an org on a pike aimed at Fetterman. These Democrats are pretty wild. When you're thinking of just the hyperbole and the verbiage that they use, why would you refer to somebody like that? Anyway, back to the Seattle situation.
There was no direction from Governor Ferguson's office or from Miller Dapol's office to wait to do the press conference until they got to.
As soon as we coordinated with SPD and agreed that it was time to talk to the media, as soon as we knew that we were going to be doing that, I and Governor Ferguson and Congresswoman Jayapal arrived on the scene within minutes.
So you can say his office unequivocally did not tell you to wait?
No, absolutely not.
What was the delay in the basics, the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s of what happened? You had people running, you had people shot on the ground with bullet holes in their backs, covered in white sheets, and we are sitting there waiting. And the only thing that we had was a tweet and people who were afraid and a lot of information on social media filling the vacuum. So why is it that citizens in the city of Seattle had to wait for almost 5 hours to get answers about something so serious that's made national headlines?
Now, I'm sorry. I love this tone. And when we say that, and to quote our friend Sean Hannity, journalism is dead, not with these guys. And the Seattle socialist mayor got the deer in the headlights. She's going to tear everything down. She's going to, grab Mondami and they're all going to wear burlap sacks and, have socialist stores and the police are bad. And, okay, well, then what happens when you get rid of the protectors, ma'am?
Vacuum. So why is it that citizens in the city of Seattle had to wait for almost 5 hours to get answers about something so serious that's made national headlines?
Yeah, I mean, my office put out a statement at 8:30, which again included an initial inaccuracy. So again, this speaks to the tension between providing information early and providing it accurately. So we, along with SPD, were trying to manage that tension, and we got information out to you all as soon as we possibly could.
Okay, I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, we're going to protect the mayor. We're going to protect the mayor from the people holding her accountable, which is pretty wild when you think about
after,
a shooting and the like. And then you have the police chief that gets mad when the reporter says, "Hey, man, where were you?"
I have been here working as hard as I can for this city from the day I got here. You got that?
There are reports
you listen
but there
to
are
me.
reports that you are not in town often.
There are reports are wrong. Do you understand?
Let's go, man. Let's go.
You understand?
So when we're
I work.
Let's go. Thank you.
The guy had to be physically pulled away from a reporter. Clearly, we need some good people coming in and saving Seattle. Or we're going to have more and more people, the Seattle people, moving to Idaho. Hopefully, the good people. We go to Liberal Steve, who joins us now at 580 KIDO. Good morning, Liberal Steve.
Good morning, my brother, by another mother. Is there anybody better than Kevin when it comes to AM radio? Hell no. And Mark, if you were listening to Kevin's show, you know that they talked about Fauci's diary several times. So start listening, would you? And you know what I did, Kevin? I searched on Google how to start a forest fire, and it came up with 48,500 matches. I thought it was funny. Hello?
I'm listening.
Well, gee, you scare me when you do that. I thought maybe you're stroking out on me, dude.
No, you always accuse me. You always accuse me of not letting you speak, and so I'm just listening to the brilliance today.
I did that because I thought you knew I was on hold, and there's about 10 minutes to go, and I sat there holding for 10 minutes, and you never took any other calls, and then you ended the show. So that was my bad. I am seriously sorry about that. Very sorry. It was, old age jerk.
Look, no need to apologize. We're all very passionate. You said you wanted to remember Lindsey Graham.
Oh, I just wonder if they're going to guard his grave. Because I heard there's going to be people running around with a stake and a hammer. Say hi to Rush Limbaugh for me, would you? And Chuck Norris. Oh, they're going to talk about this vaccine for the next 100 years and the forest fires for the next 100 years. Good God.
So you don't have any forest fires at your place? Oh, there's no forest there. It's all desert?
Oh, they got them all over up here. I'm 20 minutes from enough trees to burn down Idaho. It's what happens, man. 700 years ago, who put them out? The buffalo? Hey, why don't we be as smart as the ants and all the other little bugs that build their houses underground, and they don't have to worry about what burns on top? What do you think of that?
Well,
you guys are looking for solutions all day. Now I just gave you a solution.
You did. Thank you very much, Liberal Steve.
Boy, I'm here.
Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Take a look at our standings concerning Idaho. Once again, being one of the top states to live in. That's on our website as well. Also, going back to Kohberger, I don't think it's not going anywhere. It's just, sadly, the media's obsession with this case And wouldn't it be nice if instead of focusing in on the perpetrator, the perp, we focused in on the victims? May God bless you. Please keep the faith. Kevin Miller loves you. And like I said, we are in challenging times. Thankfully, we don't live in Seattle or Portland, but we've got these fires. Please don't do anything dangerous or silly. We need you. Our thanks to Peak Health Idaho, peakhealthidaho.com for sponsoring this portion of the program. Kevin Miller, 580 KIDO.
This episode sponsored by She's Birdie. Every woman knows that feeling, and She's Birdie knows it too. The just in case feeling. Just in case I hear something. Just in case someone tries the door. Just in case I need to wake up fast. It's not fear, it's awareness. And Birdie Box from She's Birdie was made for exactly that. Birdie Box is a portable travel door alarm designed by She's Birdie for hotels, dorms, Airbnbs, and anywhere you're staying away from home. It installs in seconds on the door frame, and if the door is opened, it activates a loud siren and flashing strobe to help draw attention instantly. She's Birdie, because peace of mind should check in with you. Birdie Box by She's Birdie. Visit shesbirdie.com. That's SHESBIRDIE.com and order your Birdie Box before your next stay away from home.